We switch over.
Made a very interesting sound wave.
I do that a lot. Anyway, I'm gonna go back to fighting Kato Danzo. This Kato Danzo, not that Kato Danzo.
That is very important.
Yeah.
Our audience might be confused. Hello, we're streaming. Welcome to What's Up.
Heyo.
Before we go anywhere, as Lucky yells at a man, I will quickly remind you, this episode is brought to you by our patrons like Adam DeHarp, Architect, Ken, Buster G, Carlos, Dragon, Ferris, Jerry Vasquez, Just the John Sandoval, Legendary Boston, Reach Raptor, Rise of Kenji, Rogue Robin, Sharvor, Sean Fire, Some Guy Named Bob, 720, and Baron the Crow. If you'd like to do West East Markets, just want to on Patreon. Next episode's early on, so it really helps us out. If you were a patron, you could, in fact, access the episode of Let's Talk FGO, because it is not out to public yet.
What happened?
The final edit was about 3.5 hours, and it was one of those classic moves where I got the audio done, put that out to patrons, fired it up, and then, you know, the old looking at the export bar, I'm like, well, it's 5 a.m., this is about halfway done, so I'm gonna go to sleep. My video exporter autoplays the file when it's done. When I woke up later around noon, we were only about 3 hours through the 3.5 hour final product, so that means it finished at like 9 a.m., I think.
Oof.
Yeah, so I finally got that. That means I only was able to upload it to YouTube after I got up, so it's gone out for patrons early. It'll probably go live for everybody after we're done. And if you are concerned about the spoiler cast parts...
Wow, that just took out a third of his health.
Nice. Preview. Big chunky damage numbers. But if you are concerned about the spoiler cast part of it, don't be, because Robin has braved the evils of actually listening to the setup and has the time code for when we start our spoiler discussion, and there's nothing else you really need to know after that other than outro stuff, so those of you who are not done with Handkill will know the point to it. But we are not in Handkill. Right now, Lucky is playing Nioh 2. I see that you actually, I believe, specifically found Nioh 2 Remastered the Complete Edition.
Yeah. Well, you can get Nioh and Nioh 2 Remastered Complete as a bundle for PS5, and I'm all like, oh, that's a pretty sweet-ass deal. Because Nioh and Nioh 2, well, I really did love Nioh when I played it a few years back, and oh, I see you go. Oh, hey, that was my face. I'm gonna finish you off with a bomb. I just need you. Now! Oh! Sorry, I was not expecting him to like jump in the air and just fucking.
Yeah.
Do that. God, okay.
He's got a pretty diverse moveset. I'm watching. I'm learning. Tickle it a little bit.
One more hit. Got it. Oh, you little shit!
Aha, joke's on you.
Use the substitution technique.
I have extra HP. Wow,
That is something you can do with ninjutsu in this game, is if you die, you'll just do the fucking, you know, swap out with a log. I'm still gonna do this, though.
Fake your death.
That's just free damage.
It's free real estate. But yes, you're playing Nioh 2. You found the bundle.
Yep.
And I will shout out, currently, just Nioh 2 is available for free on PS Plus. You can access the PS Plus free monthly games menu. You can get Nioh 2, among other things. And it's generally a good time. I re-upped my PlayStation Plus on the Black Friday deal. It's still quite a bit of money, but as I've said before, it really do be paying for itself. With the even at extra, the wide variety of free games to play is pretty neat. Apparently in December, Assassin's Creed Valhalla's going away from the PS Plus catalog. It's kind of weird, considering that they led with it being a major PS Plus title you can get, and they've done a lot to add extra Ubisoft games. For instance, this month they added Division 2, Ghost Recon Wildlands, I think it was Wildlands, a Ghost Recon game, one of those Greeble games that we know about. They're definitely not all the same game. Siege, etc. They've done a lot to add a lot of Assassin's Creed games to the back catalog. So on the one hand, it's kind of interesting to see it like the most recent one, and probably the, you know, I believe like the biggest and best selling one, go away. But also I know that like on a technical level, Valhalla Assassin's Creed is kind of like got all the best of the worst of the modern qualities Assassin's Creed has, with like, you know, lots of extra open world shit for you to do, completely abandoning all the like historical accuracy tourism stuff to just be like, yo, the History Channel has this show about Vikings with 2 axes. Everything is Vikings with 2 axes now. And I mean, like I said, I'm pretty sure that Valhalla is their best-selling Assassin's Creed, just because they think that the general market of gamers TM gets bigger all the time, you know? It's like how anime gets more mainstream,
Gotcha.
so naturally more recent stuff's getting bigger.
Flying Kato's waistcoat. I'll probably get his outfit. It'd be feathery.
Feathery.
Mission accomplished.
Sorry, rubbing my eyes a little.
Tired already?
No, just itchy eyes. I didn't have an opportunity to vacuum last night after we recorded, and I've been working on other stuff today. Luckily, I don't have to export the video on this, so maybe I'll have time to do other things.
Oh, I actually got a level 77 shiny. Okay.
Nice.
Flying Kato, Master of Illusion. That's what I was looking for. Ninjutsu, Faster Key, Ninjutsu. Ooh, damage bonus, the Jitsu power. That's pretty sick. Yeah, Neo and Neo 2 are definitely in the oeuvre of Soulsborne game, but they definitely would make themselves more distinct from with other ways.
Yeah.
So, let's see.
I think I remarked on this when you were just streaming this on Discord the other day. The UI in your normal gameplay for Neo 2, very classically Demon Souls inspired, it seems like, you know, Dark Souls inspired. You've got the classic, you know, 4-button layout. You've got your 3 colored bars of stuff, you know. But also you've got all your own other mechanics, you know. We can point out some of the different UI elements when you get back into the field.
Yep.
It's also kind of interesting, like, we talked about this a lot with the Game Awards episode a while back. A lot of FromSoft's games in this style, and definitely Elden Ring, which I have been playing. Ooh. So I know I did not just stop playing just because I turned off the stream. So I've been playing in those couple of days since then. I'll probably have some more thoughts to talk about it. But that is a very RPG type game in the sense that, like, okay, you wanna build a role, you wanna customize it, you wanna play yourself, but we got there, you know, do this specific build. Okay, you can do that. But the way that you do that is honestly, like, kind of simplified. Elden Ring does have a fairly diverse number of options for the kinds of builds that you can do. And always these games, you know, have like a couple of weird weapons. Hell, there's even the weird shit I found just playing. Like, I just stumbled across a guy who dropped Wolverine claws for some reason. They're dex-based, so I'm not good at them yet. So we haven't really been poking that. But, you know, there's stuff out there, right?
Right. Ooh, action.
But the way that you, like, get better, at least as far as I've played, like, you can't really diversify the amount of things you can do outside of certain systems. If you are playing a magic character, you can memorize different numbers of spells and cast them so much as you have MP. Okay, so you've got different stuff you can flick through. If you're a martial character, unless you're really, really swole so you can equip a lot of different weapons at once, you can't really change up your playstyle mid-fight other than the classic you can one-hand or two-hand, you know?
Mm-hmm.
With Neo 2, from what I've seen from you, streaming it and stuff, that is not the case. Every single playstyle has a lot of depth of customization and leveling up you can do. Like, you can acquire a lot of different skills and items and stuff to actually, like, improve yourself and diversify the number of tricks up your sleeve.
Oh, yeah,
or just get better at your old tricks.
Yeah, no, I mean, it is a stat-based game, and your stats do actually directly correlate to how good you are at certain things. But you can pick up basically any weapon and be okay with it. And, and it does have a thing... actually, let me finish selling everything I got because I'm trying to make money so I can make stuff.
Mm-hmm, yep.
Let's see.
We know.
So, all right, cash get. Let's go to the shrine. Level up. Like, here's the stats here for Neo and Neo 2. It is the base same, but you have everything here, and I have like everything here. As you can see right here, I have a little bit of heart, a little bit of courage because that affects my chi levels and my chi recovery. Skill 20 and here because that also helps with my rifle, and I do like shooting people. I like shooting people a lot, okay? But my main two stats are dexterity and magic because that's what mostly focus on ninjutsu and the Omnio magic, which I use a lot. Actually, you probably haven't seen. Actually, I'm gonna upgrade this though.
Well, the ninjutsu stuff they've seen, even if they don't realize it.
Yeah. But like as you can see here, as you like hit every level, it changes your stats. So everything has a little bit of something in here. But it's like I have like no constitution and no stamina. So stamina gives that. So I am a very light build. Like that's the only thing I want to say. It's like as long as you have an idea of where you want to go with your character, you can basically do whatever. And it'll be pretty viable. Like, you don't want to pick up, like, an Odachi and then be like, yeah, I want to be dexterity and magic. It's like, that's a little weird. But yeah. You can, you can dip and dabble around and still be good. But I am going to upgrade my magic because I have decided to just main split staffs because they're sick.
And that's definitely right. Like, this sort of interface with all the percentages and stuff, that is also very Soulsborne inspired. Yeah. Very, very typical.
It's my hut. Let's see here.
Okay. Is your hut still kind of shabby?
No, I got a samurai hut now.
Cleaned up a little, yeah.
Yeah.
Still not a lot of floor space, but it's cleaner.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, and in general for these kinds of games, Neo 2 seems pretty interesting. I did add it to my library, and I was originally planning, when I talked about the concept of Souls giving, I was thinking about ending up streaming Neo 2, but this is when I caught a news article actually that was like, yo, Elden Ring is on sale for Black Friday at multiple outlets. It's really rare. And that's how I was able to track down like $25 off, and I'm like, oh, well, this is actually a decent price. And everybody who knows that their games don't usually go on sale and are often full price. I think I've talked about this before. Like Dark Souls Remastered is like still like $50 or $60 on PlayStation Store. Dark Souls 3 is still $60. Dark Souls 2 is still like $40, like basically full price ass games for their era.
Mm-hmm.
But catching Elden Ring with a little bit of a discounted U was nice, and I have been playing it. And like I said, I have
you have dual revolvers, you motherfucker. When do I get dual revolvers?
Where did he get dual revolvers?
That is also... Oh, I gotta reset my fucking... my jutsu. That one dude will come back.
Oh, no.
Let's see. Ready jutsu here. You know what? I think I am gonna switch this up. Let's see. Let's put the call drop ball there. And then get rid of the enhanced bomb. Go with the shrapnel bomb. Set that up. Kunai, call drop ball, Ega bomb. I'm not using that. Sure, we'll grab some ground fire traps, and I'll just keep them in my back pocket.
Traps.
Yep, and then let's see here. for this, I am pretty tapped out. Yeah, then I'll just, you know what I'm gonna do? I'm just gonna fucking put these here. Okay, perfect. I am now set.
Nice. Yeah, in that regard, I definitely was, after seeing you play this, I was definitely planning on picking it up, and I did add it to my library, so even after the time is over, I will be able to give it the download. But I did not do that because there's lots of video games, and now I'm playing other video games. I'm basically spending a decent amount of time playing Elden Ring during the day, and then at night, when I want to relax in my bed, I am still playing Pokemon.
Pokemons.
I haven't really put talking about Pokemon in my notes. It was after the last... Yeah, it was a few days after. But I had a pretty long tweet chain about how I'm like... It was like the Monday after the games came out, and I was like, I'm already tired of the Pokemon discourse with all capital letters. It has definitely died down over the last couple of days. And I think part of that is something that might be interesting to note, you know, for our audience when we talking about games and stuff. That apparently, you know, Scarlet and Violet have sold, like, I think it's like 10 million copies. It's like Pokemon's biggest launch ever. Again, another thing where, like, as the prospective audience and number of people who might be into this grows, you know, you get bigger and bigger launches as time goes on. But I think for a lot of people that kind of evened it out where it kind of proved the point that I was making, that a lot of people used a lot of really strong language about Scarlet and Violet. You know, unforgivable, can't be ignored. You know, you cannot deny, blah, blah, blah. Lots of absolutist language that when somebody shows you cold, hard sales numbers, you're like, oh, well, you can't really use that phrase anymore because it's wrong. And this is why you shouldn't go all in on absolutes, children. But yeah, like, I'm having fun with Pokemon, and I don't feel like getting into a discussion about whether or not that's, like, some horrible sin that I have fun with Pokemon every time. I'm just, you know, I'm doing stuff. I'm playing it. I'm not playing it, like, super hardcore or nothing, but I'm playing it my own way. I'm having fun. There's, like, 4 gyms, 3 Titans, 3 Team Star bases. Ow! All of which are kind of, like, mechanically distinct in addition to being different plot lines. I can tell, like I've said before, the characterization in this new Pokemon game is really good, and that's something nobody fights about, seemingly. Like, generally, a lot of the NPCs are appreciated. You see a lot of stuff on the internet about it, people having positive reactions and relationships. You know, there's lots of teachers and stuff you can meet at school, and obviously lots of recurring NPCs and interesting gym leaders. Nimona, one of your rivals in Scarlet and Violet, has been trending a lot on Twitter for the past several days.
Is there a dude over here?
Because she's a very interesting character. She is champion ranked, and she really likes Pokemon battles, but she starts over with a new Pokemon in order to give you a fighting chance, and she likes to battle with you. She's very excited. So mostly she shows up at gym battles to be like, oh my gosh, I can't believe you're getting so strong. We should battle sometime. But I'm doing something else right now. Bye. It's good. Good characters. But yeah, that's a lot of my my time spent in the downtime. And then, like I said, I've been playing...
shit, I'm trapped!
We could probably do a little bit of a compare and contrast, talking about that game. We should play some Neo 2 as well. Some guys. Are these just men?
One's a woman.
Alright, but they are humanoid dudes. The one of them seems to have a very big sickle. I'm just watching through the preview window and I'm trying to figure out what's going on. I can tell they're shooting at you a lot. That's mostly what I'm getting. But if people didn't know, Neo and Neo 2, and even though it's called Neo 2, it's technically a prequel.
Yes.
It occurs before the other game occurs. But if you didn't know, it's, you know, set in the Sengoku era, and it's not just, you know, beating up guys, not beating up lots of giant guys or zombie guys or whatever. Seriously, I've noticed that FromSoft games are very heavily reliant on you fighting guys, but weird. Lots of fun moves and combos. But there's also a lot of, you know, freaky deaky yokai in this game to cause you grief. Earlier, before we were streaming to public, Lucky was just streaming to the Discord and fought Gyuki earlier, a big bull spider man. And then he got wings later.
It was very, very missed.
Yeah.
Oh, do I gotta fight multiple of them? Oh, okay.
Ooh, interesting.
It is a little bit, but it's okay.
I also would say this one has a slightly different setup than a lot of another, you know, little detail is, from what I've seen from you playing, most of it is mission-based.
Yes.
You know,
good. Shit. I died. Yeah, no, instead of, you know, just having one giant open world, you have set locations. And once you actually get into a set location, it is very the Soulsborne. You run around, everything's dark and grim. You know, dead bodies everywhere. But, it also has the classic thing of, you know, you have, shrines are your fucking, your bonfires here.
Yep.
And usually there's, shortcuts to get bypass things or make your way back to your shrine without having to go through, like, 80 fucking dudes. Like, I did not actually, make it to the next shrine because I got by a dog.
It's always the dogs.
It is the dogs.
Fucking Elden Ring has fucking sky wolves.
They're just like putting
minding your own business in the open world, and the wolves just spawn from the sky. I'm not joking. If you look at them when they spawn, they literally like jump down from on high and appear in a gust of wind. Yeah. They're not really that tough. It's just one of those things where you're like, all right, I guess we're doing this now. They're just wolves. But yeah, I've seen you, you know, go on missions to kill a certain boss or kill certain bosses, get to a place, whatever, kill certain enemies, and then it's just like, all right, mission's over, go home. Yep.
And that's what I like about it. Like, at no point do I necessarily feel trapped in my whatever I'm doing, because like this is a mission. I think there's a dog around here. I'm gonna kill it before it does something fucking. Is that nerd? He has 2 guns out. I got shot with them.
Bang, bang.
Arrow beats bullet.
I mean, in this time period, yeah.
Oh, that dude's sleeping. He wakes.
It's very funny how I just watched him do the wake up. His wake up was he attacked in front of him.
Yeah. Listen, it's the Son Goku era.
Yeah.
There is only panic and despair.
Honestly, that guy was a pretty heavy sleeper to sleep through all the arrow noises and gunshots.
But what was I gonna show? Oh yeah, but yeah, since everything's mission based, I can just at any like you have like little fun items like you have something called a divine branch fragment where it just lets you you can just leave the mission. You'll get rid of all your Amrita, which is basically your power up juice. But you can leave if this mission ain't your jam, just get out, leave.
Yeah.
But then you can also get divine branches, which lets you do the same thing, except you get to keep your Amrita. So that's
pretty typical for Soulsborne games. I think most of them have, or at least nowadays anyway, most of them have you always have the item that is just like, just kill yourself and reset to your last spawn point.
Yep. That's like I said, no, this is the one that lets you leave the mission. To go back to spawn point, that's the Harakiri sword. You just want to disembowel yourself? Here you go. But then
yeah, okay, so you got layers.
Yeah, but then there's the travel amulet, which is the same thing except no disembowelment.
Okay, that's pretty neat then, again, because of the mission-based format, you can have multiple steps, so you can be like, okay, you can shortcut to a respawn point, or you can also just ditch the map and the mission.
Yeah.
Go back to the world map.
Dog.
And definitely that thing you said where you say that this game doesn't make you feel trapped in what you're doing. That is definitely like, especially after having been playing Elden Ring, which doesn't also kind of has a way to get around that, but in kind of completely different way.
Mm-hmm.
But you've definitely caught on to something that is part of the reason why I find it kind of frustrating and tense to play a lot of the more classic Soulsborne games. Like, I streamed Bloodborne a couple of times, and outside of those streams and a little bit of in-between time, I haven't really gone back to it since. Because, like most Soulsborne games, Bloodborne it's not, like, completely linear. People will get on me for, like, oh, it's not linear, you can skip bosses or whatever. In general, you go in straight lines through loads and loads of dudes until you can make a shortcut where you can, you know, cut up a corner of the loop and get back to an earlier area. But in order to progress, you usually have to go down places, either to get to a new area, to make a shortcut back to an old area, or to do a dead-end, you know, a dead-end dungeon to defeat a boss to progress somewhere else. So you are basically doing straight lines, and at a certain point, you're like, well, this is just the thing I have to do. When I did my second stream and we ended up beating Bloodstarved Beast on stream, that was just like, well, I have to do this. The way I get around this is I, you know, do something even harder and more complicated to skip this boss.
I know there's a fucking dog here. Where is he?
So we just have to keep beating our head against this until we get it. And certainly Elden Ring has elements of that, and I suspect that for like main story progression, Nioh 2 is probably the same way, where there are points where it's like, well, this is the story-based mission, so if you want to progress the story, you have to do this mission sooner or later.
Oh, God damn it. You cut me up. Fuck. He's just like, no.
Yeah, he just double-tapped you with a katana. That's very funny that he survived being suplexed with a staff, just slap you with a sword, but, you know, swords hurt.
Well, yeah, but talking about what you're saying, like, Nioh 2, yes, you have your main missions, but usually you also have a bunch of sub-missions that you can do that are, you know, like, different and usually have different objectives, which are shorter, so you, like, if you're getting sick of trying to, like, if beating your head against the main mission, you can go do a sub-mission. Or once you unlock them, you can do a Twilight mission, which is something that I really, really like. Because I'll actually have to explain it, but because Nioh 2 like has a big element of grinding. I think this has been one of the complaints that the game does have, is that a lot of people find that the late game has a lot of grind, has a big grind mechanic. Like, I haven't fully got there yet, but like, if you pull out my equipment and you see the name in the top middle, if you look to the left there, you see a level. Like, all your equipment and gear has levels. So, you know, you're constantly, like, picking up gear, swapping gear, all that stuff.
Yeah, it's I think we described it on an off a Discord stream. It's a little bit of Diablo inspired type stuff. You have color coded gear that has different levels.
Yeah, and like at certain points, you start unlocking gear sets for, like, you know, sick bonuses and whatnot. So, like, on top of, you know, like, everything else, you got to make sure that your gear is, you know, keeping up with you. And it's usually pretty okay. Like, the game does come up with ways that you can just craft the gear you want. You can use other pieces of gear to level up your gear. You know, you can fiddle with your gear to give it different special effects. It has a lot of options and let you... Oops. Sorry, I heard the enemy sees you noise. I was just like, I forgot about this guy again. Rifles are great. This is not actually how fast rifles fired back in the day, but pragmatic adaptation. I'd be sitting here for like a fucking minute reloading this goddamn thing.
Yeah, I used the Tanegashima rifle in Metal Gear Solid 4. It's a whole thing.
Isn't that the one that had the divine wind ability?
Yes, as usual, we stuck in a funny thing where randomly, if you were outside, it would cause like a cyclone that would stun a lot of guys in the area. Yeah. And it was also just like had a power like a sniper rifle otherwise. But yeah, it had a very realistic load time, even for old Snake, where, you know, you got to do the actual like tap tap powder stuff, fire. So it took a couple of seconds to get in there.
Oh, wait. Are you sleeping?
But yeah, so you're talking about you've got your gear level to track as well, which is something that like it's usually not phrased that way, but is a kind of like an unspoken hurdle in some Soulsborne games where I've definitely run into it where like I will reach a point where enemies are clapping me harder and are taking less damage, but I am not necessarily like getting new things to like improve that. And a lot of that can just be you take your basic weapons and just keep sharpening them over and over again, you know? But occasionally you do just get better drops. This is a lot more explicit with the loot hunting elements.
There we go. All right. I have finally made it to this treasure chest.
Hey. Open the box.
I can't. Yeah, I've opened the box.
But since I don't know this, what is the relationship between Twilight missions and that, loot grind you're talking about?
Oh. Actually, you know what? I'll just go fucking show you. I don't care. I got fucking divine branches out. Well, I don't go out the wazoo, but...
You've got a couple, and you're not afraid to use them.
No. Like, okay, so these are all regular missions right here, and you see here, like, my main mission I'm at here, my recommended level is level 80. I was over here doing some level 78. This is a Twilight mission. Its recommended level is 20. We're gonna go in here. So basically what Twilight missions are is they're basically revamped versions of main missions. This is actually the map for the first mission in the game. They basically turn everything into yokai. That reminds me. They turn everything into yokai, and there's a there you are. I remember this dude. And things are a little thing. But the interesting thing about them, though, is even though their recommended level is only 20, like the enemies fight at level 20, they'll drop gear at your level. Like, no matter what your level is. So these are, trying to get into well, actually, this Gaki soul will be fine, because these souls do too. But I have to get it home first. That's right. So if you're trying to this guy will drop shit. It's gonna take me a second though. No, he's gonna beat me. I got squicked.
He had a big club.
Yeah, I always gotta be careful about... Oh yeah, that one's mine. Tee hee hee. Gotta be careful about that. Like, even if they're reduced level, these guys are still, dangerous.
They're still guys, We're playing one of the third action games.
Okay, yeah, so, like, oh, it's another soul. So, like, you see, I picked up a Hunter's Split Staff there. I'm in the area that's supposed to be, like, level 20, but if I go and... Where is it? Quaking Tonfa. That sounds sick. This Hunter Split... Wait, nope, that's not it. Or is it? Okay, yeah. It's level 64. So, it gives me, things closer to my item, and closer to my level, which is helpful when I'm trying to get better gear and loot, and not necessarily trying to raise my level, because I'm only getting the experience for level 20-ish enemies. So it's nice. I'm gonna beat this cow.
Oh, so yeah, so it's kind of balanced out. You get better gear, but you don't get as much other shit. You're getting lower level drops, but it's still a way that you can pick up on your stuff, which is good.
Oh god, they're very good with the attack tracking. They will just turn as you go. With some of their attacks, so it's a little worried.
Yeah, you gotta pick one to get in there.
Favorite culture. Ring spikes. Bonk.
Looks to be that guy.
If it doesn't miss me, which is the worst thing.
Yeah.
Alright, but that's that. I can just get out of here.
So yeah, that kind of leads to the point I was talking about earlier, where Elden Ring has its own way of kind of defeating that closed-in feeling that you usually get playing these games, because depending on the game, the actual FromSoft Soulsborne games can be more of like, you know, kind of like a wheel with spokes. There is actually a central area that you can physically move to, or you can teleport to an area and go a straight line, etc., etc. Elden Ring, obviously, if people don't know, is, you know, open world style. There is a, you know, fully normal overworld, and in general, if you can see something that is modeled in the overworld that is not, you know, vast ocean, you can walk there somehow. And they give you extra tools to make this work. Some of this came in later updates, but some of it was in the launch. So you have a world map. They decoupled fast travel from actually touching sites of grace, which is what they call the bonfires now. So it means they don't have to just be in fires. But if you just from the world map, you can fast travel. In certain locations, you are barred from fast traveling, like if you're underground or deep in a dungeon. But in general, you can just fast travel to any site of grace you've already found. You can also rest there. It has a day-night cycle, and resting at sites of grace, you can change that. I do notice that some enemies have slightly different behaviors day or night. You'll also like sometimes get guys who will like get illumination during the day or night, or encounter different mobs. And obviously, you have to deal with the fact that it's dark at night. So if you don't want to fuck around at night, you can just wait till it's morning. But in general, it being like open world-ish, if you run into a guy, still pretty decent fights.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, there's the classic, you know, Dark Souls type thing where there are guys who are really big and tough who are close by the starting area that are technically generic enemies, but you know, depending on when you encounter them, they will feel like bosses or mini bosses based on like how tough you are. Like on stream, for instance, I actually poked at like a giant man with a sword, like an actual giant-y looking giant guy, and like tried to figure out what his deal was, and I was like, nope, he's taking way too little damage. I don't want to stay here and fight this guy forever. Run away!
Flee!
Sometimes ride away, because that's another thing. You got a mount now. Torrent. He's kind of a, you know, ox horse man. Very similar to Yakul from Princess Mononoke.
Mm-hmm.
But so you can, you know, jump on that guy anytime you're outside and cruise around. He's got his own sprint. You can still attack while mounted. You cannot block, but you can, you know, attack different things. So it's decent flexibility, and it really lends itself to, like, you know, when I'm just like, oh, let me see how tough this guy is. Oh, no, he's way too tough. He's dealing too much damage, and I'm not dealing enough damage. I will come back later, you know, and I just refactor myself. Whereas in a lot of the earlier FromSoft games, you can't really do that. Like, yes, there are enemies who are supposed to be beef gates, a classic RPG strategy where the game is just like, hey, in the future, we want you to be able to walk to this location, but that's later, not now. So fuck you. You can't walk there. There's a big tough guy here, and he's gonna kill you. Like, so these guys still exist as beef gates, kind of. But in general, in also a lot of the FromSoft games, it's just like, there's literally one way for you to go. You must go through this narrow passageway and fight all these guys until you get to the end of that area where you can kick down a ladder or unlock a door or throw a lever that is conveniently broken from this spot. Even in Elden Ring, I'm running into occasional bits where I'll like find it's like, here's a lever. The mechanism is unresponsive, and I'm just like, all right, game. I get it. It's for later, but still, it's kind of annoying. I'm, you know, fighting my way through this horrible castle full of dudes, and I'm looking for, like, signs of, like, securing my progress because These guys still hurt a lot.
Oh,
you know.
okay. Thank you for letting me know that, Yamababa.
Bye.
Fight Revenant. Fail to death. I see.
Uh-huh. Somebody slipped. Sucks to be him. But yeah, so in general, Elden Ring's approach is just, if you don't want to deal with a guy right now, you can leave and go somewhere else. They do seem to have like a decent amount of just stuff you can discover. There are a fair number of like caves and other like miniature dungeons you can get into if you want to actually like, you know, find some gear, find some NPCs, find, you know, just grind out your runes, your souls type currency. I will also say, like, generally game design wise, they're pretty good at getting you everything like right away. And while there are still some design decisions I find just a little annoying, I hate that when you pick up a new item or important item, the little pop-up for the thing you got, it stays on the screen until you hit triangle. I really wish it would just eventually fade or something, or I could hit any button and it would go away. But no, it'll stay on the screen and block your precious vision of the frames in the middle of a fight if you're like, don't remember to press triangle, which can be hard when you're busy getting murdered. But that's like a really minor UI thing that I'm just like, why haven't you guys fixed this? Probably because people don't complain loud enough about it and you don't think that it's an issue. But other stuff does work. For instance, in Elden Ring, you can finally jump good. Oh, what do we got here?
Oh, no. Secret doors. Like, if you look on the floor and you see the scratch mark, that means that the door can rotate. Nice. But I'm on the wrong side for it.
Ah, another classic. The thing I was just talking about. Well, that lets you get back to this room. I do appreciate that in Nioh 2 you can fucking demolish Shoji screen doors. More Soulsborne-esque games would be funnier if you could just obliterate doors.
Well, you can't obliterate all doors, but...
No, but it's some of them. And admittedly, Shoji screens are not known for their toughness, but still, it's funny. But yeah, so Elden Ring, you can actually jump good. With Torrent, even, you can double jump, and there are certain spots where there will be, like, giant windstorm pillars, so you can jump really high. Oh, interesting. Okay. And you can't go back at all.
Nah.
From that way. Not really sure I see why that one's there, but it's neat, to be sure.
Well, to be fair, this is a map that was in Nioh 1. This is a reused asset.
Okay.
So, they, like I said, it might have been in Nioh 1 that had a use, but here it just died.
It's just, you know, a thing they've got. That's okay.
Yeah. I just knew, like, I just remember it from
callback.
Nioh 1 that these things were here, so I was like, does it still work? And it's like, yes, it still works. I'm like, sick.
In that case, that is probably the point. The point is if you played Nioh 1 for you to go, oh, hey, is there a hidden door here? Yeah, neat.
Yep, and here's... Onsen!
But yeah, it's kind of funny that it took them... I mean, technically, and you've actually played Sekiro, so you can talk about it. I believe Sekiro has much better platforming deliberately as well.
Yeah.
You can actually jump again. But Sekiro also has a lot of different design conceits.
There's just 2 men in full armor. Oh, they're fucking yokai, that's why. Not dealing with it, no.
No, fucking blow it up.
I will also enter this hot spring. It's a double dip.
Oh, you're double dipping. It's good for your bones. But yeah, like, it's kind of, obviously, I mean, I think it makes sense that after in Sekiro they had proper, like, platforming and stuff you can do, that in Elden Ring they just keep giving you a good jump, but aesthetics-wise, Elden Ring is very similar to Dark Souls games. I think that there are some really interesting things they've done with it, and I want to also say this about Elden Ring. I'm playing it on PS5. I've heard that by most accounts it runs most stably on PS5. It definitely was at launch. I've got it in, you know, performance mode for those sweet buttery frames because I still don't have a 4K TV and probably won't for a little bit yet. I did try to check out some Black Friday deals on TVs. I've talked about this before. My current TV, which is now like 3 or 4 years old, is getting a little on the fritz. It has a little bit of a hard time getting fired up in the morning. But a lot of the deals on Black Friday for like, you know, really cool shiny like 4K TVs are still really expensive, and I'm like, I don't really want to pay $300 even at a discount. Like, okay, I get that $300 for a TV is better than $500 for a TV, but still, this is a lot of cash. I'm sure that my TV will fucking explode in like 2 to 4 weeks, and then I'll be like, well, now I have to pay whatever it is for a TV, but it's a hard gut check, y'all.
Yeah, no, I still get anytime I have to spend over $100 on something. That's that you know, clench my butthole. I'm just like,
yeah, that's your going, man. That's a lot of digits. For instance, I also like tried to look around for like deals on computers. I will say Amazon's formatting for Black Friday and Cyber Monday sales is kind of annoying. They mostly just tell you what the discount is. They don't tell you what the price is until you start clicking things. Sometimes it's because it's like on like a category. Like, for instance, there are apparently still for Cyber Monday some decent sales on a decent number of like anime Blu-ray titles that are distributed through Crunchyroll. I didn't really find any series that I was super keen on picking up, but, you know, Blu-rays are pretty expensive, so that can be a good deal if you people out there do like your physical mediums, you know. But other times it's just like, yeah, there's a really good deal on this thing. What's it worth? Oh, 30% off.
Oh no, there's a monkey in the back.
Like, some PC stuff. And there's a big boy in the back. And even then I was still like, yeah, I still feel like I need to do even more research to find like reputable guys, because it's like, yes, okay, this PC is on sale, so it's only like $800 for a quote-unquote gaming PC. But it seems like you still need to pay the $250 separately for the graphics card. And yes, those are both discounted, but that's still like quite a bit of the cash. And I'm like, I still need to like double check this. I also don't know if it was bundled where they put the graphics card in the PC. You got to do that yourself. I'd like to, if I'm going to the trouble of paying for everything brand spanking new, I might want to avoid that.
Yeah. Just
because I don't want to fuck it up. I'm not afraid to have to install the parts myself, but I would prefer not to if I don't have to, because that creates more room for error.
Yeah, no.
But I did, obviously I talked about the PS Plus, but the Elden Ring was also on a Black Friday deal that I described earlier. So yeah, like, in general, I find it actually, like, the open world nature really relaxing and freeing, because it does give me the sense to be like, yeah, I don't have to be here right now. I can just go away. Or I'm, you know, walking along a path, and eventually I walk so far that I run into guys who are, you know, clearly, like, higher level than me. They are, you know, bigger, tougher, stronger, not, you know, taking as much damage from me. And I'm just like, okay, these guys are here. I don't want to deal with them right now. In another case, I ran into an area where I was actually fighting enemies okay, but I talked to an NPC, and he was like, ah, yes, keep going east. There's a thing I'm looking for out there. And I'm like, that sounds like a plot thing I don't know if I want to stumble into yet. It was Iron Fist Alexander, by the way, the warrior pot. I know he's very popular on the internet because he's a talking pot man. Literally, he is a jar with arms and legs. He was stuck in the ground. Though that does remind me of another NPC interaction that was really, really frustrating. And definitely the kind of thing that can only happen in a Dark Souls-ass Dark Souls game where your UI is very minimal. There was an NPC who just randomly calls out to you and is fucking like, I know you can see me. Why won't you meet my eye? What's wrong? Well, the motherfucker has turned into a tree. He's just a random tree in this pile of trees. I fucking looked it up because I was mauling so hard about this, but I'm like, that I don't like that. I don't like when the game is like, doofus, you can't see me? No, I can't fucking see you. You're a tree. Game designer, you know this guy is a tree when you wrote him. I know it's supposed to make me go like, oh, where the fuck is this guy? But he's a fucking tree in the middle of a bunch of trees. I'm in the overworld. There's lots of trees here. How the fuck would I figure this out? So yeah, I just Googled it online and figured it out. Because I was very annoyed with this guy just yelling at me. And I'm just like, that's the kind of thing where, like, I wish there was more pushback from people that we could, like, get FromSoft to stop doing stuff like that, because it's not necessary. Like,
nah, you gotta have the most minimum UI, yo. You gotta keep it hard.
Like, if that guy, like, honestly, if they had a way to highlight NPCs, because you can't target NPCs you're not supposed to punch. But if there was a way to, like, highlight enemies properly, it wouldn't, or highlight allied NPCs properly, it wouldn't have been a problem. Or also, I don't know, don't make him a tree. Just make him be, like, sitting down in a bush. But still be a guy, so you can be like, oh, hey, that's a guy's silhouette here. But yeah, that was just another, like, there's still sometimes those weird cases of design where I'm still like, we could get over this. But otherwise, the open world navigation tools are still pretty good. I mentioned there's there's the full world map, and the fast travel is decoupled, so you can do it literally wherever, so long as you're in a zone where you can fast travel.
Oh yeah, I remember what I gotta do now.
You can set on an unlimited number of waypoints. Like, you can just set waypoints. They show up on your map, on your compass, and in your field of view. So if you're just like, you want to just try and keep a reference point, you can just put a waypoint down and be like, I want to go here. And I do think they naturally go away when you get there. Whee!
It's a Nureona.
Yes,
Drowned one.
Nureona. A lot of people chilling in the bad side.
I'm gonna wait for it to sit back.
NPCs also do have little icon markers, so you can tell where a guy is if you're trying to find them, which is good because while there is kind of a central area you can go to, the round table hold, and I assume more NPCs will eventually get there as I progress the main story, there also seem to be still a decent number of merchants and traders and stuff who are just out in the world at specific points. So being able to look on my map and have them be like, ah, yes, that's right, Merchant Kale is at this place. That's where I go to talk to him is good. Sometimes stuff can be a little out on the beaten path. So they've done a lot to like make it open up and give you your opportunity to still be like, nah, fuck this shit, I'm out. So I'm having a decent amount of fun just, bumming around when I find it's like too hard and I'm like, I don't really want to grind out here. I leave and come back. I do still think there are a lot of the classic Dark Souls gut checks, like after defeating the first like real boss, which I did on stream. That's, we went there and we ended.
Is there a fucking Umibo? There is an Umibozu in the bath. Don't you fucking lie to me, you little shit.
You know what's up.
My bath now.
Brings a whole new meaning to Bath Bomb.
It really does.
But after defeating Margit the Fell Omen first, you get access to Stormvale Castle, which is very Dark Soulsy. There are very, very limited numbers of Sites of Grace bonfires you can go to. And your choices are, you can have the main gate raised, which means you get to bum rush a gauntlet where there's a bunch of shitty crossbow and ballista dudes firing at you. My favorite type of enemy in these games. Or you get to do the classic Dark Souls thing where you go through a hole in the wall and you go around through a tight, cramped space full of really annoying armored dudes, some of whom throw fire pots because their back corners are filled with red barrels. Yay! Environmental hazards and deep, dark pits.
Can you blow up the red barrels?
Yes, if you want to, you can get fire pots and blow up the barrels first.
Fuck yeah.
I also suspect if you learned... I'm not spec'd in Faith, so I don't have access to fire magic, but if you had fire spells, which you can access at this point, you can also probably do that.
Oh, I only need 12.
So yeah, as usual, you get to turn the stuff around on them. There are also some other really annoying enemies in here I've talked about before. They're these fucking eagles with swords on their legs. They are the devil. I hate them. Because they fly around and they're very agile, so they can wheel and deal and dodge attacks. And also come at you at different angles. And they just have fuck tons of reach. Because they're flying. And later, they will use their swords to grab flaming barrels and throw them at you, which explode when they hit the ground, even though there's no fire source. Don't know how that one works, game. But yeah, so that area that I'm in that is, like, necessary for normal plot progression, I am certain, and I can already guess how and why. But there are definitely ways that you can, sequence break around that. But that's definitely the one where the game is telling you to go do that, so it's probably the simpler route to get your first great rune and, all that fun stuff. That's very more classically Dark Souls. And you've got to do the old, trudging through dark corridors and beating up guys who are pretty tough. And I'm slowly leveling myself up to get in there and take on those guys. The main thing is just, I feel like the game set me a bad precedent. I was able to very, very early get an item that increases my number of Kool-Aids. I'm not calling them Sunny D anymore. They're Kool-Aid because it's red and blue now, not orange and blue. So you've got my red Kool-Aid and my blue Kool-Aid. So very early they give you an item to get an extra flask use. I have not, since doing that on stream, I have not seen another one of those. Nor have I found the item where you can spend it to increase the amount you recover. So I'm still rocking a pretty limited number of heals to fight guys, and enemies still slap pretty hard. It's why I'm still focusing a lot on vigor and increasing my base HP. Because I would like to get to a point where I feel like I can not have to heal every time I get hit by a guy. And some people would just be like, well, just don't get hit then. And I'm like, yeah, but also it's a FromSoft game. Sometimes you get hit. As you were talking earlier with, I believe that was off stream, but enemies don't always play by quite the same rules as you do in these types of games, so sometimes you get cheesed. I have actually been diversifying my building a little, though. I picked up a greatsword early on in the stream, and I've actually spec'd out enough to wield it. I've been having fun just two-handing it. I used a skill to make it a magic greatsword. I infused it with a spell, so I can use that spell with my weapon out. I don't need like a catalyst or anything. I can cast from my weapon, which is cool. It's a Glintstone Shard. It's just a little magic missile. Reminds me a lot of the first basic bitch spell you can get if you pick that build in Demon Souls, which I actually quite enjoyed going that route. It was just mainly the fact that a lot of early level design in Demon Souls is just kind of insufferable. Lots of castles with long dark corridors and deep dark pits. They've been doing it for years, y'all. But that also means that my sword is now part magic, so its damage scaling is also partially based on my int, and it now adds magic damage to physical damage, so it's better. So I'm like, yeah, this is neat. I can rock this. I'm having a lot of fun with my combo strings with two-handed rings.
Oh, this is a gauntlet.
Eventually, what's up? You got a little gauntlet-y thing to do? A little boss rush, little enemy rush? And it's with the fucking monkey man to start too. These guys got a lot of stuff going on. But yeah, so like, I'm pretty sure eventually if I keep focusing in strength, I can get swole enough to also carry a shield and one-handed greatsword, because you can just be that fucking swole in Elden Ring. And a lot of Souls games, honestly. But I'm not quite there yet, so, and Elden Ring does have the poise and the equipment load system, so you can't equip too much shit. You can carry an unlimited amount of shit in your back pocket, but if you want to have it on you and out for use, that goes against your equipment load, so you gotta watch out. Technically, I found some pieces of random armor that are, like, lighter than the starting armor set I got, so I could, like, reduce my resistance very slightly to get a little bit less weight load, but I am trying to take less damage right now, so I'm not trying that approach. But again, there's lots of little knobs and levers you can flick. It's not as explicit with its growth curves as, like, Nioh 2 is. We were talking about this earlier, you know? Like, obviously, if you're going the spellcasting route, you know, you need to slowly raise your stats so you have the minimum requirements to learn certain spells that get better and better as you go on. But otherwise, for, like, the Ashes of War, the kind of, like, weapon skills you can embed, that mostly just seems to be, can you find a guy who sells this? Can you find, do you have enough souls, you know, runes to buy it? Which is, it's simplified, it's okay, I don't mind that necessarily, but there are definitely times, like, having seen you play this game, I'm also like, oh, this does something different, this feels like it's also up my alley, because it's coming at this from a different approach, you know? This one's definitely more, and you know, it's obvious being a Team Ninja game, on the action side, this game is I think, a little bit more technical than a lot of the FromSoft games are. Like, obviously, you can be very, very tactical, very precise with your jumps and your builds. But from what I've seen you do with Nioh 2 and like, look at the subsystems, this one, you have lots of different shit you can do all the time, and you can really, like, fiddle around with what you're doing with it.
Oh, yeah.
Like you said before, you're kind of a Dex magic build, you know, going in for ninjutsu and onmyodo. And I don't know if you've explicitly said it on stream, so chat might not know, but they've definitely seen you be throwing shit all the time.
Yeah.
And that's in your ninjutsu wheelhouse, and yeah, you can just do that. While there are throwing items in most FromSoft games, I don't know if you can turn that into a primary build.
Yeah, no, like, ninjutsu, I have bombs and shuriken, and as long as I keep my range, I can just throw them. I've killed bosses, I can kill bosses with them.
Yeah.
That's and, same with, it's Okuni. Ha! Makes sense. It is the Sengoku era. Again, it's always funny just to recognize people that pop up.
Yeah. Part of the point of these kinds of games.
Mm-hmm. So that's done. Skills. I got some samurai. But like that's the thing I like about it. It's not. My entire build doesn't have to be all just entirely. I have to run up to things and hit things. I can. They don't have like full-on builds, but like using like ranged weapons, I can. For most minor enemies, I can one-shot them and not have to fucking deal with them. It doesn't work on bosses. I'm gonna tell you that right now. Bosses really like getting up in your grill. Oh yeah, I was working on this. +5 paralysis. Oh, actually, can I learn? No, I can't learn the fucking mystic ones yet. Fuck. Ugh.
And Elden Ring does add another aspect to some of that. Now you can craft items straight up, and you can collect crafting materials in the world, which adds a lot of like extra, color and stuff that you can do. Enemies drop stuff now, so technically I could craft, I think, an infinite number of like bone needles to throw at people by just whittling animal bones. Which is another thing, by the way, I really find interesting because it is now like a big open world, and while the lands between are very fucked up, they're not like dead or undead or demonic or anything, at least not, universally. So there's a lot of wildlife. Like when you cruise around the starting area, there's a lot of trees, a lot of plants, and there's a lot of just wild animals, a lot of which are neutral or like actively run from you.
Oh, that's neat.
So you can run into, goats, deer, weird squirrel rabbit things. There's a lot of birds hanging around just looking cool. Like at night you run into owls. During the day you can see eagles. If you're near water, you can find kind of like penguin-looking motherfuckers, And obviously, if you need to farm them for materials or a little bit of runes, you can kill them. But most of the time, you can just let them chill. So that's like really interesting design-wise. That means they opened up their environments and their enemy design a lot. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I think I could craft, theoretically infinite bone daggers to throw at guys. But there's still a limited number of resource. There's only so many I can hold at one time, only so many I can throw. And I don't know if you could use that as like maybe even in this, like you said, it's not the basis of your build, but it is a significant part of your tactical skill set. It is a thing that you can increase your damage with throwing shit and be better at it. So that can be one of the things you can do to defeat enemies and bosses,
Yeah, no, like like this is the thing that I enjoy. One of the things I enjoy about this, like there are very different ways to like various ways of improvement. I guess to say, like 1, you have your level, 2, you have your gear, 3, you just have your skill proficiency. Actually, let me pull up status. That is a better way to do this. Basically, the more you use a weapon, the more proficiency you get in it, and lets you unlock new abilities with it. And like I said, like no matter what my stats is, I can equip any weapon. Like I said, but you won't necessarily do as much damage with it. Let me see here, because if I pull up the equipment, like if I pull up the Zen split staff here, if you look at the bottom table, you see its base attack and then its attack bonuses. Basically, that's basically the amount of damage you'll do per stat. And if you notice, it's not just one. My main stat is magic, and I get a B+ damage bonus from that, but also from strength and courage. So if I put points into strength and courage, that will also increase the damage I do with this, just not as much. So, and a lot of weapons have that. Just like the bow is heart, skill, and dexterity. The rifle though is skill, dexterity, and courage.
Interesting. So that's the different like the letter ratings for what your damage bonus is from. That is also very, very Soulsborne, but this seems kind of interesting that like by default everything seems like a tri-stat.
Mm-hmm.
So it really opens up how your builds work. Like for instance, in Elden Ring, most melee weapons are dex and strength, and sometimes they're like way worse at dex than others, but they still work. I was able to get a third stat on my greatsword by making it a magic greatsword.
Yeah.
So now it also scales off int. But that was a thing I had to like add, especially after finding a guy, you know, to do all the stuff with, right? And obviously, you know, it's all still starting stuff, so it's like, ooh, scaling D.
Yeah, but like as you can see here, like, I've like dabbled with a few things here and there, but like, my Shiftling is level 23. That's when I take on my yokai form and stuff. But that's not leveled by using it. That's leveled by using soul cores and whatnot. So that, but as you can see, my ninja level 37. I use that shit a lot. Because my next one down there with the weapon I'm actually maining, the split staff's only level 19. Followed by the Kasarigama at 15, and then the Switchglaive and Hatchet at 3 and 4. They're neat, but the Switchglaive, it seems like, yeah. Switchglaive also do pure magic, but I really like this staff setup, this tri-staff. Actually, does Jinskai have a tri-staff?
Yeah.
I should totally check on that. But, yeah, but basically every time I level up in my proficiency, it doesn't like make me better at it, but it unlocks, gives me a skill, there we go, it gives me a skill point, which I can then go into another tree, and, you know, I can learn like certain skills and moves here, like, because there's a lot of commands and stuff that you can do. There's also passives in here as well, and they run a fucking gambit here, y'all. Anything from, like, you do more damage when your health is full, you do more damage when your health is less, you know, counters, dodges, all that kind of stuff. And then that's all gets put into your skill customization. Where's my split staff? Here we go. Where all this stuff, like, starts out empty, but you can... Oh, I can turn this off? I think I will. Darting Cloud's okay, but it throws me off sometimes. But, you know, pushing certain oh, I don't have anything for here. Okay. What is this? Ah, okay. Oh, I do have hold buttons. Okay. Nice. You have, like, different abilities. And, you know, they're all different for, like, which, whatever stance you're using. Because that's a big thing about Neo, is you actually have a stance system. I should probably get on my next mission so I can show you guys. I guess we'll go back to this one. Like, if you look in the lower right now, you can see the four stances. Basically, if I hold R1 and push a... Well, actually, I gotta load a weapon. It actually looks like it. But if I hold R1 and push a stance button, I will change my stance. And changing my stance will actually change my combo. Between both its strong and its weak attack. And each stance is particularly good at one thing. Particularly good at a couple things, I should say. Like, the low stance is usually good for quick, fast attacks and is more suited for dodging attacks. Mid is, you know, middle of the road with damage and speed, but is better suited for guarding. While high stance is big attacks, big sweeps, like very little defense. Like, you can see, my attacks leave me like way open as I swing and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so basically every weapon has those three different stances, and each of those stances has its own list of skills that it can use into it. So there's a lot of depth in like how you can approach situations. I personally usually stick in low stances because, like I said, I'm a dodge build, so I like to dodge around and get in there. But on occasion, especially on big one-on-one battles, I'll switch to mid stance, because when you're in a big one-on-one battle, usually the enemy is hyper-focused on closing distance with you, so you can't really do it, because everything you do in this game requires a key, the stamina increase. And shit, don't touch me. And while it's like I said, you can increase and improve it, like it's you run out like super fucking fast. Every single fucking time. Neo has a system where you can do a key pulse, which kind of helps you. Please pay attention to the green bar above. Like, as you see, it goes down. And basically, when your attack goes, you have to first recover the amount you use, and then you have to start that recovery over again. So for long battles, you know, you'll tire out quickly. But if you hit R1 or dash, in my case, which I like to use, if you notice, the red pit disappeared. I just started immediately recovering. I can also just hit. Let me do a perfect one. I can actually do a perfect key pulse and also do that. So that's one of the things you have to keep in mind in combat is your key recovery is based on how well you do your dodges and your pulses and whatnot. So it adds, again, another level of, man, that makes combat honestly very hectic and whatnot. And I like it. I think it's a little bit harder. Oops. He got double revolving again. Why is it always this guy? I think it's like the third time I forgot he existed. He must have a presence of 1. But like every there's only what was it, 9 weapon types? Let's see.
Look at that. Yeah, it seems like
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. No, 11, excuse me. There's 11 weapon types. And each weapon you attack the completely same with it, but still have different abilities on it. If you look at the purple ability, Imbue Purity +8, that little symbol on it, that means that every weapon of every Zen split staff will have that ability. Every single one. And all the other ones are randomized. But that means though that this Ginin split staff, its specific ability is the low-key attack consumption, which basically means I don't use as much chi when I am swinging around and low stance.
beat.
Also, apparently, this one, if I kill someone, I drain health, and I do more damage the less armor if I'm wearing no armor. I mean, I do more damage if I wear less armor. Wild. So, even if this is why I'm carrying the Tengu, I think it's Kahara. And this staff, because this one has these ones always have corruption. This one always has purity, and I use that to fight humans and yokai respectively. But I can do that, and they will fight exactly the same. And you can find some of these, most of these you can, most of the weapon sets you can find pretty early, so you can start building what you want to do. I'm pretty sure I had the Tengu Kahara and the Zen split staff when the first 5 main missions. And that's a lot with a lot of them. I haven't unlocked everything. I still haven't found the purity type Kusarigama. But I'm sure it exists. But, I can have other weapons to fill in that role. There's a dog over here. I'm gonna fucking shoot it. Don't shoot the dog. I'm gonna shoot this guy over here, too. Bang. Is it cheap just to kill everything from afar? Yes. But also, it keeps me away from them.
Yeah, nah. Listen, we're playing a game. There's lots of cheap shots. We take our wins where you get them.
But no, it's I just feel to me Neo is more accessible to what I want in a game than Dark's any most Soulsborne. Even though I like Bloodborne, it's I did not put that much time into Bloodborne. I think I put 15 hours into it, and then I was just yeah. But I have put 100 hours in Neo, and I'm probably gonna put 100 plus into fucking Neo 2 as well.
Yeah, it definitely feels like they've gone the route of using systems that are obviously a little more familiar to the general audience, but
also I
give you some of the feedback and granularity that makes it, like you said, more accessible.
People also got to remember that fucking Team Ninja was the OG 3D hard fucking game because they did fucking Ninja Gaiden back on the Xbox.
Yeah.
It's they know how to do hard. Oops, I forgot about the dog.
Obviously, that's a different kind of hard, Ninja Gaiden is.
I mean, it was still an action. Well, it wasn't an RPG, but it was still an action.
Well, I mean,
game.
yeah, they are action games, but I think some of it is the pacing is different. Certainly, some of the boss fights line up that way, but Dark Souls games also have a lot of other things. In Ninja Gaiden, at least I assume, you know, from what I remember from watching people play the series. Decently mobile, like obviously probably not perfect, but you know, it is Ninja Gaiden.
Oh,
In the
yeah,
original NES game, you were decently mobile. Mobility is something that Dark Souls is not known for.
No.
You know, and the way that they do certain kinds of classic dungeon crawly tricks, like, you know, Dark Souls games do occasionally have death traps, bottomless pits, guys would fuck with you in your bottomless pits. You know, enemies like to do a lot of like shenanigansing you around corners or near blind edges, or you know, hide behind boxes. Sometimes there are mimics trading bullets there. So it's not quite the same like setup, but definitely I think like, yeah, Ninja Gaiden games are known for being quite difficult, quite punishing, you know, even if they are more faster paced than a Dark Souls traditionally might be. But that means that they know what they're doing about action games, you know.
Oh yeah.
So it's definitely not, I mean, people have seen you die several times on stream. It's by no means like easy. But I like the way you phrased it as accessible. There's a lot more for you to be able to like actually like look at and internalize and understand and figure out, whereas, you know, a Dark Souls is like, hey, you picked up a pickled, you know, Greeble eye. What does that do? No fucking clue. You want to figure out what that does? You got to go in your menu. By the way, there's no pause. So if you do this in the middle of a fight, you'll get murdered. And figure out that eating the pickled Greeble eye gives you plus... actually, no, I wouldn't even phrase it like I was going to say plus 5%. No, Dark Souls doesn't even tell you that. It's like, it makes you better at, you know, not being poisoned for a little bit. How much better? That's definitely something I've heard people even say about Elden Ring, is they have these handy little icons that appear under your health bar to tell you when you've got buffs and debuffs. I don't know if... Yeah, Axe just said it. They show you buffs on screen, but they don't explain them very well.
I remember there was a big...
I don't think there is an in-game resource for you to look up what the different buff icons do.
I remember there was a hullabaloo about the character that, you know, gives your character a hug and gives you a debuff, and people didn't actually understand what the debuff did.
It was a debuff? Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I did that on stream, yeah. I think it's a max health related, because it is like the inverse of the sigil I got from my starting item to give me more starting health, so I'm like, okay, that makes sense. What if you picked one of the other 9 other things you could start with? You would just get this thing after you got your hug, and not figure out what it means. I mean, like, you can infer from context clues. She talks about, you know, taking your warmth and whatever. Many memes were had. There are a lot of good memes in the early one. We got called Maidenless, all that fun stuff. That does remind me about Elden Ring trying to make itself more accessible. I do like that, like, after you're forced... Like, yes, there's a quote-unquote tutorial boss, and there's a boss you're supposed to murder. You can do the tutorial parts. But, like, other than that shit, you can almost immediately get to leveling. Like, you got to poke around a little and find the right bonfire to rest at, but Melina will come up to you and be like, all right, let's hold hands. Cool, you can now level. Call me up whenever. And I'm like, okay, good. Because, again, I had just come off playing, like, most recently I'd played Demon Souls Remastered and Bloodborne. Both of those, like, give you quite a bit of setup before you can level. In Bloodborne, you cannot level, even though you can access Hunter's Dream, you cannot level until you have at least insight of 1. The fastest way to do that is to see a boss, fight the first boss, which means that, you know, you'll probably not be leveling before you meet the first boss.
Shit.
You can find items to, like, give you insight, but that means you got to go out of your way and start exploring with, you know, more dangerous, deadly enemies as well. And Demon Souls, you cannot level in that game straight up until you have defeated the very first boss, the first real boss. Not the tutorial boss, the real boss. Not that Phalanx is hard, but it is Demon Souls. There's quite a lot of the walls of Proletaria for you to get through first, which involves lots of bullshit. I've talked about it before. Lots of bottomless pits, lots of crossbow guys, lots of shit throwing fire at you. Lots of really strong armored boys who can murder you in like 2 hits. All the, you know, a lot of the classic tropes go back to Demon Souls.
You know, Neo's not like that. You just level up like from the start. You got to like, you start with a shrine and just right there it's all like level up. I'm like, okay, perfect.
Yeah, and I think that's again there's a little bit more of the philosophy of like, we're building a hard game, but we're not building, I don't necessarily know if I want to call Dark Souls opaque anymore. But FromSoft Soulsborne games are definitely a lot of the time minimalist. And honestly, I think that's kind of a waste sometimes. I know that, like, Miyazaki, the game director who came up with a lot of these tropes, he has his own reasons for doing some of this stuff. He has talked about how he definitely
There's
is
a spider down there.
Ooh, there's a spider. Go squish him. He's a squishable spider.
But
Miyazaki, the FromSoft director who does a lot of these games, he's talked about how he has admitted that yes, indeed, he is basically a masochist gamer. He makes these games to be kind of entertaining for people who are like that, who enjoy kind of the suffering process and then the catharsis where you win. I appreciate some of the element of, like, the games are supposed to give you a genuine sense of triumph when you get stuff done. And definitely, I feel like, on stream anyway, when we get some of the real shit done, I'm like, yeah, we did it. All right. Look at that, chat. We did it. Do a little fist bump. So there's something to that, though some of that, obviously, I think is part of the shared streaming experience with people, right? Like, me and chat playing off each other, being like, yeah, we did it. Or me getting ego boosted when, Loth or somebody's in chat being like, well, you died, but you made it farther than I did on my first try with this boss, so, and I'm like, okay, we're going. I said this on stream with Elden Ring. I don't like to say that I'm bad at Soulsborne games, but I'm not great at them either, Like, I'm an okay gamer. I know what I'm doing. I understand a lot of the basic concepts of the system. I have played these games before, but I am not like a die-hard, I've got 120 hours in every FromSoft game kind of guy. I know all the tricks and stuff already. But there's definitely, like, I think Elden Ring is their most accessible game and their most, like, non-punishing your real build choices game. But it's definitely, like, it's still got a lot of that obscurity, a lot of that minimalism, and like I said, I think sometimes it's kind of a waste. I think that, like, the Dark Souls games, they have okay world building. Some parts are usually pretty interesting. Some parts are just kind of there. And I do kind of feel like with some people have said Dark Souls 3 is, like, full of lots of references to earlier plot points. It was deliberately supposed to be like, okay, well, we're doing our last Dark Souls game. We need to, like, capstone the trilogy thematically, It does happen fairly frequently with game design. But, like, lore-wise, I don't think they're super bold. I've had some people be up in arms who are like, Dark Souls isn't really generic dark fantasy. I'm like, it is. It is actually generic dark fantasy. Like, you can say it's not because there are some really weird, unique lore tidbits, but usually you have to go out of your way to find, like, a weird ring or a dumb shield or something to get those weird lore tidbits. For the most part, most of the shit you see has become the boilerplate for dark fantasy RPGs out there. There's lots and lots of undead guys rolling around. There are lots of huge castles that are in ruins. There are poison swamps for some reason. There's lots of emphasis on, like, forces of chaos or madness or whatever, lots of, Götterdämmerung type shit, end of the Age of Gods. And certainly, I think that the original Dark Souls games have some interesting concepts in there, but a lot of the stuff you see is pretty basic. I do think that world building wise, Elden Ring is a little more in-depth. There's a little more extra stuff there, and to be fair, part of that I think is because they did go to arguably the person you can, whether you want to blame him or praise him, but the person you can source a lot of our modern gritty realism, dark fantasy to. They got George R.R. Martin to write background for this game, I think the way they've actually described it, his relationship was basically he wrote kind of their setting Bible type stuff. Like, he worked on a lot of proper nouns, a lot of world building concepts, a lot of the backstories for major characters, but a lot of the actual, like, mechanical type stuff and the things you run into in the scenarios in game. That was all the in-game writers taking kind of the background he'd created and working with it.
Mm-hmm.
But so they definitely have some slightly more unique aspects than usual. but there's still a lot of fairly generic dark fantasy stuff that you almost have to like get out of the way to get at the really interesting lore concepts. And even then, a lot of them are kind of ambiguous, whether that's deliberate. Again, Miyazaki has, you want to talk about, game designers who are trying to make games their way. The director behind the Soulsborne games is definitely that guy. Like, when making his dark fantasy tropes, he said he was very inspired by his reading of lots of, classic European fantasy novels, which were full of proper nouns that when he was younger, he didn't really know how to translate, right? So he, was talking about kind of only understanding like half of the body. And so Dark Souls games are kind of written in that way, he said, and you can kind of see it, right? Like, there are a fuck ton of arguably meaningless, like, random proper nouns in these games. Like, even in Elden Ring, the player character is, you're the Tarnished with a capital T. All of us are tarnished. We see the grace. Why are we tarnished? I don't know. I assume it's some kind of play on the fact that there's a lot of theming around, like, gold, like the Elden Ring itself and the Erd Tree are all gold. Some of the imagery with America, the God Queen lady who's gone missing is with the gold. There's the Golden Order, who is supposed to be, like, the church state people who are in charge and stuff. So, there's a lot of symbolism, and then tarnished gold, a kind of a thing, that's trying to bring that back into focus. I don't actually know if it means anything. How am I tarnished? Like, what does being tarnished mean? Is it a bad thing, a good thing? I don't fucking know. A lot of people seem to be counting on us tarnished to follow the grace and, like, become the new Elden Lord. But also, sometimes people are just like, tarnished, you suck, you're bad. I'm gonna kill you now. And I'm just like, whatever, capital letters.
Let's get the
I don't really point fingers about capital letters in world building. I am, Mr. World Build loudly. But it's definitely the kind of thing where I get the sense of, like, yeah, we're just saying stuff, It's neat. We just did whatever sounded cool. That's okay, but don't take it too seriously. But again, I didn't know if I was going to buy this game or when I was going to buy this game. So I've read a little on, like, some of the deeper lore. There's a lot of, like, really interesting stuff here. And some of the different, like, routes you can go with the endings has some interesting concepts that are not quite fully explained in-game, and even people to this day, months later, are kind of like, yeah, I don't really know where this is going or what that means or how that works exactly, with, like, certain characters' identities and the backstories and stuff. And we may never know, because that's not really how FromSoft operates. And in general, as a guy who likes to read and write stuff and figure out lore, I kind of wish at times they could be less minimalist, be more unambiguous, and just, like, give you ways to read up on some of this shit, Mm-hmm. Because I feel like their writers and world-building team is, like, almost wasting their effort sometimes to have these things that are scrolled away in, like, obscure item lore or random loading scene segments or whatever, where you're just like, you guys put so much fucking work into this that, like, tons of people aren't gonna see outside of a YouTube channel where a YouTuber, makes an 8-minute video where they clip this weird thing and they're like, here's this weird thing about this boss. He's actually the son of Garblstank, this other boss. I'm making a lot of fun. A lot of the names are not Garblstank bad. There are some fucking namey-ass names in this game, though. Mog, Lord of Blood. But there's also plenty of perfectly normal ass names. Yeah, there's a lot of G's, R's, and M's. It's thematic. There's also kind of a triplicate thing. There's 3 3s. Which, but again, brings me to that kind of unspoken thing. Myself, from, like, reading characters' names and thematics and how they talk, and also, like, seeing things, I'm like, my plot woman for this game has an M name. She's never explicitly named amongst other characters with M names, but I wonder, the game makes you do that kind of scratch your chin kind of stuff. I won't go any further in on that if people are, like, really wanting to get into the lore of Elden Ring. But I will also tell you that's not very clear either. It's just kind of like a question mark thing. I do know they're planning some DLC. I'm kind of curious to see, like, what they announce when and, like, what the themes seem to be. when they get to that. Almost assuredly that will be at the Game Awards because, again, FromSoft has a lot of big representation at the Game Awards. We first saw Elden Ring there like a couple of years before it came out. But yeah, there's a lot of interesting things. There's a lot of stuff that seems to just dead end. And unfortunately, I will say, it seems like because of their nature as kind of doing this dark fantasy thing, there are a lot of plot lines that if you just keep pressing, just turn out badly for those characters. Like, there's a lot of cases where if you do your best to help people, they get what they want, and then what they want is they get turned into, like, a pile of rock faces, or they get murdered, or, you know, they're eaten by a parasite or something. And the easiest way to not do that is just stop doing their side quests, but that means you don't get access to stuff, to cool stuff that you need, that you might like. And I'm just kind of like, God, would it kill you guys to just have us, you know, figure out that stuff for a person and have them, like, move somewhere and stay there and not be fucking around with us? God, there's a lot of red blood souls here.
Well, this is a...
Lots of people be dying.
I was checking the death to see what would show up. And I know there's gonna be a ghost meme or something.
Yeah, I don't know if we haven't really commented on it. Chat may have noticed when you are killed, it does give you a cause of death.
Yeah.
Which is also reflected in the little, you know, the blood-stainy type markers that tell you where people died when. It also tells how. Sometimes they're a little funny. Again, this was off camera here, but when you were fighting the Yuki earlier, you did die to its weird water cutter breath once, and the game was like, "You drowned!" You know, because it was a water attack, even though that's not technically what happened. It was more like you were fucking obliterated by it.
Stop that!
Yeah, there you are. Now you got flattened. Now you got flattened twice. I tried to flatten you 3 times. Fucker. That's another thing I want to bring up. Elden Ring is definitely more approachable, but I've talked about this. This is a thing I heard from people, and it is definitely true for me playing it. They made, like, all enemies, like, even more fuckery in this game.
Shit.
Guys will usually stick to the same attack pattern, you know? They'll do, like, 1 hit or 1-2 hits, and then 1-2-3 hits. But sometimes they'll just change it up for kicks. So, like, an enemy will do, like, his normal 2-hit string, and then he'll just decide, no, you know what? Fuck you. I have a 3rd hit now. And you can get absolutely bamboozled by this. And often it comes with all the fun stuff you'd expect, like extra AoE or extra really long reach. There are some guys that
that's right. I got my
like,
fucking boys. Get them!
Boys to call for.
Well, yeah, one of the mechanics in here is with the soul cores, you can equip them and use axe.
Oh, okay. So yeah, you can call for
Slow. Listen, there is no better debuff than that boss that constantly chases you, just to slow it the fuck down.
That's another thing we talked about off camera with the accessibility. There are quite a lot of debuffs you can do in this game to enemies, and they work.
Yeah.
Most of the time.
Oh shit!
Which is neat. Gives you lots of different options.
I'm not okay. I'm not okay. I'm not okay.
Oh hey, it's Gauze and Mez. It's 2 of them together.
Die.
Isn't that so cool?
Okay. Okay. He's dead.
Once again, talking about how by no means does Lucky talking up how, like, accessible and customizable this game is mean that it's easy. There's still bullshit, guys. Like, you get, you know, 3/4 of the way through Gozuki, and then Mezuki's just like, hello, I am here now.
You're just gonna spit spirit at me. Ha ha ha! Run away!
So I will say another pretty fun thing that people know about that has been added to Elden Ring that is good for you is spirit summoning.
The what?
The spirit summoning.
Oh, you
not only can you
shit!
summon, you know, phantoms of allies. We did a campaign brand super mode. Very in all of these, in all of a lot of action games, grabs are the kind of attacks I hate the least. I hate the most, I mean. Like, they're the least fun. Because it's basically like a stun lock, but also with unavoidable damage. And then sometimes you just die. Like, sometimes it's so much damage. Like, if it was like a weak attack and bosses used to buy space, that would be cool. But usually command grab type shit is just fucking annoying.
Okay, did I win? Am I done? I think so. Thank God.
I mean, you just had to do a duo boss, so I kind of, I mean, I don't know, like, how far you are in the end game curve of the game.
Oh, I
Maybe
get the
making you do 3 bosses is about right, but I would assume in normal gameplay, slapping you with the duo boss at the end bit
Grab my
is
boys.
probably it. But yeah, so I was talking about spirit summoning. You've got spirit ashes, like a thing you can equip. They do use your magic meter, your FP bar, your fancy points. It stands for something. I don't know. It's the blue bar. It's MP. But in certain conditions, you can summon them, including like most boss fights, and they just give you extra guys. Obviously, you can do the normal NPC summoning for certain fights, which is helpful to just draw aggro. But the spirit summoning you can do is like yet another decently legitimate technique you can do. It takes you a little bit of time to do it, but they can be pretty handy. I've had some success with the lone wolf summon you can do, because it summons 3 wolves. There are 3 wolves inside of you. Which just, they're really good at drawing aggro and getting enemies and beating them up and chipping away that little bit of damage so you can get in, you know? But again, it's not like a deeply customizable thing. It's just like, here's some summons. Check them out. They're cool. I have a giant jellyfish as well that's kind of funny. It's not, like, super damaging, but it's a giant jellyfish. That's a thing. But yeah, so probably expect me to keep talking a little bit about Elden Ring as it's happening. Though obviously we have other video games coming up, rolling out, doing things. We're about a week away from Callisto Protocol.
Yep. I've already pre-ordered mine, but unfortunately with Black Friday shipping going on, Amazon's like, we might not be able to get it to you in time. And I'm all like, it's okay. You do you.
Yeah. You know, stuff happens.
Go sell some stuff.
But that's coming in soon. Be interested in that. I'm also, you know, planning on a pretty close to, you know, day one. Haven't locked in my pre-order yet, but probably will soon. But going for a Crisis Core Reunion. It's a big deal for me next month as well. Anything else really crazy happening in December?
December? No.
Nah, it's pretty normal. I think the big tentpole games are, like, brand new games are, you know, Crisis Core, Callisto Protocol. There's a couple of interesting things, like there's the next-gen version of Witcher 3 coming out,
This one.
like on PS5 and Xbox X. There's the Valkyrie Profile Lenneth remaster on PlayStation got pushed to December. Marvel's Midnight Suns is coming out as well in December, same day as Callisto Protocol. I'm not really super excited about that, but if you are, that's okay. It's kind of like some kind of Marvel's XCOM-y type thing. Mechanically, it seems up my alley, but while I like a lot of Marvel characters, the setup of like, there's demons, Marvel demons, I'm like, whatever. Pretty normal. Though I am also myself very interested. The console drop for Gundam Evolution is in a couple of days as well.
Oh, really?
It's out on PC already, but it'll be coming to PlayStation and Xbox the 30th. I will definitely also be checking that out myself, but that's a free-to-play game, so my wallet will not cry. Unless they come out with a premium Gundam character that I really want.
Let's lock this one in.
So probably going to be cruising on those last couple of games for the year. Though certainly there are plenty of stuff happening pretty early on as well. I believe Dead Space remake is still January, I think.
That's what I hear. Oh, I know what I need to do. I need to make sure I have the bestest quality.
Yeah, Dead Space remake January 27th. Wow, shit, is Fire Emblem Engage that soon?
Oh,
January
yeah.
20th. I am kind of mid on that game so far. There's definitely something about the art style they've switched to that's a little like just off-putting for me. It seems like very shiny. I know some people are like, "Oh, yay, we get back to bright colors," but I'm kind of like, "Wow, that's like really bright." But I guess we'll see how some of the mechanics shake out. That's probably not a day one for me, but I'll see what people say first. Keeping in mind, I will mostly be talking about. Honestly, I think in this case, I would trust the opinions of reviewers who are not huge Fire Emblem guys over people on the internet who identify as Fire Emblem people.
Yeah, no.
I'm gonna agree with y'all.
Comments.
But I will see what's up with that, and then. But yeah, so that's that, and then.
Give me purple.
February is going to be another interesting, because that's going to be.
Yes.
Hogwarts Legacy is in there.
Let's equip that shit. Oh, come on.
Oh yeah, Forspoken is also January. I was trying to find it. Yeah, that's January 24th. That's another interesting one. I'm not sure if I want to. I am not as turned off about that game as a lot of people on the internet seem to be. Like, the action and the combat seems really cool, and I'm not really, like, agitated by some of the dialogue the way people on the internet are, like, really driven to be annoyed at it, like they can fucking elocute anyway. I'll say it. I'm on Twitter. I know how people sound. I know how I fucking sound. Have you heard me speak? I can't say a line correctly for shit. But yeah, then February is... Let's see, Hogwarts Legacy. Oh, that's when Theater Rhythm Final Bar Line comes out. We'll keep an eye out for that one. Damn, wow. I mean, I guess it's not early. That's still like 3 months away. But Like a Dragon Ishin is February as well, next year. So yeah, it seems like next year's going to start out pretty strong. There's an extra bonus danger for February for Lucky. That's when Altair Rise of 3 comes out.
Yep.
Let's see. We know a couple of games that are in March next year. Resident Evil Remake, obviously. Oh, that's when Skull and Bones got delayed too. That's right. Will that game come out? We'll find out. And then also that Wolong Fallen Dynasty game. And then from there, it's pretty slim. The only hard and fast dates we have after March is Dead Island 2 is supposed to come out in April. Tears of the Kingdom is supposed to be May. There's a decent number of games which are, give me that, you know, picked out for next year. You know, obviously, 16, Final Fantasy 16 is supposed to come out sometime there.
Yep.
Final Fantasy 7 Rebirth might come out that year. I will not 100% agree with Game Informer where they put it as unannounced there. They just said it would be next winter. There's a lot of Strike Zone in next winter, guys. Just because Crisis Core Reunion is coming out in December does not necessarily mean that Final Fantasy 7 will. I mean, I'm hella hyped. I would love to have Rebirth sooner rather than later, but I also have like, this game's going to probably be pretty big and chunky and big deal, so we'll figure that one out. Oh yeah, fuck. Just remembered. There's a lot of little games I keep forgetting about. What date is Front Mission?
I thought it was December, but I could be wrong.
No, Front Mission first is November 30th. So almost December. That's the same day as Gundam Evolution. I will consider putting that one in my back pocket when the actual month comes out next.
All right, now did I punch everything?
I just remember that because I was like, oh yeah, Front Mission 2nd remake. That's next year. When does the first one come out? Soon. What the fuck? Okay, it's not a real release. It doesn't even have titles announced. But I'm just looking at the list of games that don't have announced dates next in 2023, and this list is like Payday 3. I'm like, what? It doesn't even have like what platform it would be on. So that's definitely that's a big strike zone. We'll see. We'll see if that happens, guys.
I have to do Honoji.
But Pikmin 4 next year. Jedi Survivor next year.
That's something I forgot about. Yeah, Jedi Survivor.
Yep. Don't have a lot on that one yet. We just got an announcement trailer. We'll probably start seeing that around then. I mean, we might get another trailer at the Game Awards. I don't know. Did EA have any presence there in the last couple of years? Chat.
You little shit. Not you, Akechi. It's not your fault, because I realized this fucker is a fucker. He's evil! Oh, shit.
Plus is happening. As always, there's a lot of the games. Wolf Among Us 2 is supposed to happen next year.
Motherfucking Yasuke!
But that's enough of Omega's weekly skim game release schedules to try and remember what games are coming out when, so he can buy them, maybe.
Maybe.
It's tough, y'all. There's a lot of games. Switch a couple of things off there. I know this is it's way past this, but we can just use this to rope in some other stuff. You mentioned earlier asking if there was a section staff in Gen Sky, and there is, because I did actually put a decent amount of effort into making sure there were quite a few weird monk weapons to use. And a fair number of classic Eastern style weapons to get into, because it's obviously, again, most of it is Western style, European style fantasy, but it's also very anime inspired, so obviously there's got to be some weird shit in there.
Ah, shit, they got on mute.
So there's a lot of monk weapons. Tonfa's 3-section staff. What other weird shit did I tuck in here? Yeah, you've got hand weapons, you've got tonfas, katars, tiger claws.
I bet, wait, actually, no, I bet fucking the tri-second staff is like fucking cumbersome 3 or something.
No, it's unwieldy 3.
Unwieldy, excuse me, yeah. The agility one.
Requires some dexterity, yeah.
Yeah.
3-section staff. It's got the exact same damage stats as a regular quarter staff, but it also has defensive one still, and it also has linked one, because you can hit people with the other end. But because linked is very powerful, it requires a certain amount of physical dexteritas to work. Nunchucks are kind of the same way. They're melee lights and they're one-handed. They do 1 less damage, but they're linked 1 and disoriented. Because they are kind of a weird club on a chain. But we are still playing the Gen Sky. The APs are caught up, I believe.
I did. Yeah, I did.
Yeah, it's up there.
I can't remember if I was timely with it or not, but I remember I did it.
It was like Wednesday, I think. Published. Or maybe it was Thursday it got published. Yeah, I think you uploaded it Wednesday and then I made it public Thursday. Yeah, published the 24th.
Oh, okay.
Also on Thanksgiving. Woohoo. Definitely did not have as much energy in the naming of the episode. I did kind of, I realized this later. I didn't say this on mic, but I realized that my problem was that we were going for like 3 hours straight, and I hadn't been refilling my water or drinking it. We were just going.
Hydrate.
So yeah, I ran out of a little bit of juice in the end there. Which means we're gonna get an extra session of this that I wasn't necessarily planning on, but we'll see. It's gonna be interesting to tackle some of the stuff I've got left. I at least did a very strong foreshadow of what is coming next, but it'll be funny because you guys are kind of splitting up to go to different areas. So I'll get to do some funny setup stuff. Hopefully we'll have some yucks, and then also some cool things. But naming-wise, I wasn't really sure what to call it, so I just went with what you uploaded it as. His name is Tetsu.
His name is Tetsu.
And then the AK is, you're not here, you left. That happened several times. Not just with Dallas, we also had other characters attempting to leave and not be here and be other places. Definitely feel like that's a thing I need to get a little better grasp of my flow on with this current group, is breaking up the, like, okay, that fight is over. Do your healing, get your loot, whatever. Okay, here's the next scene. Because I talked about it on mic. There was a boss fight. You guys concluded it in your own way. That ended up being slightly harder than it should have been because I played to my greatest weakness, math. Trying to remember my pluses. That's okay. I've learned from my own formatting. I have no one to blame but myself, but I know how to work around it next time. Just write in my notes for the playtest to put the template there, so it's all the adjusted stats, and we won't have that confusion again.
Personally, I'm okay with the fact that we almost couldn't hurt it, because like I do have a bit of an issue where everyone's first response to deal with any sort of problem is to just hit it until it goes away. Like, instead of like thinking of other solutions like, suppression or whatnot, they're just like, let's just hit it with our strongest shit until it stops being a fucking problem. And I'm just like, yeah, that is one solution, but I feel like using that as our only solution is a problem, because the minute that doesn't work, everyone starts going,
Yeah, and I'll say I personally have not had any problems with you guys so far resorting to violence too early, necessarily. And I think that this one worked out because you guys tried to go for the non-lethal sleep takedown, like, because that means you still had to chip away at its health pool.
Yeah. Because
of mechanics, this boss still got to do some cool stuff.
I got to
breathe fire at you and stuff, break some bones, Yeah. So that didn't feel like I think that I know there was some discussion during the fight, like, is the sleep of compel like too powerful? I'm like, no, I think this works. Because if you're fighting like weaker enemies, you're still very limited by range. So if there's like a bunch of weak guys just being like, you sleep, you sleep, you sleep, you're gonna burn through a lot of strain very fast. Using it as an alternative to like stun down a very strong, very tanky boss by attacking their HP in a different way, that really worked out for you guys. I think your other primary solution was, and Aaron talked about this the other day, was like, he didn't really have any better ideas at the time. It would have been to use the solution I had if you guys couldn't damage burst this thing down, which was to use bombs that I put in the scenario for you to use, as a backup thing, which would have had its own, possible complications.
Yeah.
So this ended up, kind of different. But after that interaction, which I think worked out pretty good, there was definitely a moment of like, okay, here's the loot pile. And now then there was another thing, which was technically an optional, I can say it now, technically was an optional boss fight. That stat line I made may come back later, but it was a thing where there was going to be an enemy who was going to be pretty tough, was going to be pretty hard for you guys to hurt, who if you was either going to like beat you up and run away, or if you beat them up too bad, they would, drop a story point and flee. They would smoke bomb, which they ended up doing anyway because it was just very funny when Aaron unfortunately rolled a lot of threat on that perception check. And now he's got black lung. Oh no.
Oh no.
Actually, I don't remember what I called the weird lung disease analog, but it's not black lung. It's something in the disease table.
I know it's not aqua lung because I would find that way too funny. But you did make an aqua-related disease.
Yes. But, you know, good time on there, and just for my own, you know, I can say it really melodramatically, my own physical weakness. But yeah, I was a little tired, so we didn't get to as much of the setup, but you guys still got to do plenty of stuff and shop around, and we had fun character interactions. And I think the overall build-up for this is going good. And I'll get the extra on-air time out of you guys. I'll get my ad revenue because I'll ask you guys about where you want to go next. As usual, I think I know what it'll be, but I do like to give you guys, you know, options for if you're feeling different things. You know, like when we stopped the playtest set the first time after the first 6-ish episodes, it was exactly 6. I was like, okay, where would you guys want to go next, and what do you want to do? And you know, you were like, well, specifically, I want to go to Arcadia and then maybe explore the Polis League more. And a lot of the other guys were like, yeah, no, I'm down to Polis League. And so I'm like, okay, cool. Then that gave me all the through line for the Arcadia side quest things, you know, a lot of those little mini quests, and then I use that as a bridge to take you deeper. Oh, actually, I don't think I've mentioned this out loud, but I will tell you guys, I think most of the people in the game are listening right now.
Except for Dallas. These things, except for
yeah. He does occasionally go back and listen. I think he has probably been busy. We did our usual at-him trick for Fail Betrayal, and he still didn't show up, so I assume he is, you know, busy with lots of other stuff. It was Thanksgiving break, and it is getting close to finals, so. And he's pretty far in his psych program. God knows what his finals are like. It's not like they can issue him a written test for some of this shit. But he also hasn't gotten at me like he's gonna miss this week or anything, so we'll continue to see.
Scampus! The best Pokemon.
It's so rolly.
It's just a rolly cat. That's all it is. It just rolls. When it gets
the wheel yokai are motherfuckers. And I think every time those guys show up in something, they are motherfuckers. This is a thing, actually, I was going to talk about back when we were talking about Elden Ring's kind of, like, different aesthetics. That's another thing I think Nioh has going for it. They tried that, obviously, with Sekiro, but Japanese yokai are weird.
Yeah.
Like, there are a lot of weird creatures that exist in, like, you know, medieval European fantasy. There's a lot of dumb shit in bestiary footnotes that, like, some monk was really bored and was like, what if I give a lion a scorpion tail? You know, shit like that. And that's where a lot of your classic fantasy D&D type mix and match critters come from. But there's just some of the more popular yokai urban legends that have survived are just really weird. Like if you think about it, Kappa are weird.
They're a little fucked up,
They've got the
too.
water cup in their head, and then they get your soul out your butt and stuff, and you're like, what is going on here?
But you can defeat them by challenging the sumo or bowing, because they will bow back. And it'll empty their water dish on the top of their head, and they will lose power. I'm just like, who came up with this?
Yeah, it's you know, it at some point it was probably a metaphor for something, or maybe it was just somebody drew a weird turtle man with a bowl in his head at one point, and that, like, turned into a thing, you know? Like, and again, I'm not going to say that, like, there aren't weird medieval stuff as well. There's a decent number of, like, classical lore about fairies that are just kind of weird. Like the concept of elf shot, which I did turn into an item in Jinsekai. But that urban legend concept it's basically a twofold thing. It is a myth that explains, one, where, like, Stone Age arrowheads come from, if you dig those up in your yard, you know? And two, it's to explain basically, like, arthritis or sudden muscle cramps and shit. It's like, when you get a stitching pain with no visible source, you've been elf shot. Invisible elf arrows have shot you because, I don't know, elves are fuckers. Around elves, watch yourselves. It goes back a long way, Chad. And then, like I said, it was an explanation for why you would find, you know, old stone arrowheads. So, like, there's definitely some of that weird shit. But I feel like, you know, the nature of a lot of Western culture and a lot of the kind of, like, Christianization of a lot of that has smoothed the edges of some of the weirder aspects of some of that, you know?
Yeah.
Because we got to all make it fit into our pretty little worldview. And, oh, you know, fairies have to be, you know, adorable and cute. You know, they can't be, you know, the gods of ages past we no longer worship, stuff like that. But there's not really any of that with the Japanese yokai myths. That's just, like, a lot of those are, like, going back to, oh, here's a weird wood block from this era, and then here's another weird wood block from this era. And we just keep writing about it, you know. So that gives games like Nioh 2 a wealth of very interesting aesthetical enemies that you probably won't see anywhere else. Other than, like, you know, if you were fighting, you know, biblically accurate angels, you could get some wheels with eyes guys. But yeah, the wheel monks are a thing, and those are always fuckers. Those guys were fuckers in Okami.
They were.
Because they're constantly rolling at you and they're hard to stun. But yeah, the wheel boys are terrifying. But yeah, what I was saying was I can pad out the next session with Gensakai by asking you guys, do you want to go route A or route B? But what I was saying before I interrupted myself was, I don't think I told anybody this yet. I was struck by, like, the writing bug on, like, Monday or Tuesday. I just went ahead and wrote the travelogue description for Venitas.
Oh, sick.
Because it is a fairly big city, I think I wrote it as either very large or very dense. I upgraded one of my adjectives with a superlative.
Mm-hmm.
It's got extra paragraphs. It's got a lot of districts. But hopefully there should be several plot hooks for you guys to get a sense of, like, what's there and where you're going around, and also stuff I can capitalize on for writing more adventures when you guys get there.
Is there, like, a secret door I need to go through?
But I have been chipping away at the NPC profiles lately. I mentioned this earlier. I am most of the way through the Abomination section. We're all the way through Fae. Took a break there in the middle for some inspiration stuff, but I rattled them all out. That's full of fun things. So many templates.
Yeah, no, you've been posting, Oh, this way. You've been posting...
Yeah, I've been teasing it a couple of times.
Yeah, and sometimes we just look at them, we're just like a little like, okay. It's going places with this.
Yeah, the Abomination description, you know, there's a lot of different names for this. This is basically is the D&D category Aberrant. I do sometimes call them Aberrant. That's the name of one of their passives. Chaos Spawn is another one. The idea is that a lot of these creatures are directly resulting from the influence of the elemental chaos, you know, the kind of formlessness before everything. And that does technically still exist out there. It's in the cosmology of Gensakai that, you know, there's all of creation and the spheres of heaven and earth and stuff. And then there's the outer gates, which are like a border realm. And beyond that is the elemental chaos, where just shit's still weird and fucked.
Shit's fucked.
And so there are, because there were, you know, entities that existed in the chaos before creation, in the elemental chaos, there are also still just things out there. And they're really weird because they're not, they aren't born under the rules, so they're weird.
That's,
So some of them are more like demonic or artificial in nature. I have stat lines for like manticores and chimeras, for instance. You know, very classic monsters. The actual classical chimera I explained is like, it used to be kind of a folkloric moment. Minim made the chimera when she was fascinated with the various animals Verna made, and was like, I'm gonna pick my 3 favorite things. And it created a chimera, which is just weird. It's a weird boy that can't really exist in nature because it's got, you know, extra heads and stuff. And one of them's carnivorous and one of them is you know, herbivorous. Maybe we'll say that the snakehead was ovivivorous, you know, eats eggs, so that just, you know, fucks up your diet a whole bunch. But now they're like actual creatures running around you can run into, and those are just kind of like produced alchemically by fusing different creatures together. But other things are just like, you know, outsiders, aberrants, creatures from beyond you can. Obviously, I'm not going like really ham with the cosmic horror. The brain eaters are, I joked about this with Lucky before we started recording. Brain eaters are very clearly, you know, illithids, mind flayers with the serial numbers filed off. They're very clearly meant to be like that, but, you know, we've got a couple of different things. They could also just be a thing that happens a lot where you've got guys with tentacle beards, you know? But they have gross big heads, and they're a parasite that it starts as a little squiggly eel-like thing that tries to eat your spine or your brain. Because there's loads of that in fiction that people like. That was in Animorphs, that's in, you know, Stargate, you know, there's lots of that stuff. But eventually their adult form is they turn into, like, once they eat the entirety of the host's brain and kind of take over their body completely, they get all gross and big-headed and tentacly. I shared you guys the fluff description of Brain Eater. So, you know, that's definitely a little more, like, creepy and body horror-y and gross. But I will let everybody know, slight spoilers, but mechanically, you know, they're not really that gross and weird. Like, they can, you know, take over characters, but mostly that's for, like, NPCs and stuff. You know, Brain Eaters have the adult Brain Eater, the Nemesis form, have some weird attacks where they can, like, you know, drain your stamina or, like, psychically attack you, but they're not, like, if it's not like a command grab type thing, you know, from, like, the original Demon Souls or in Bloodborne. I also think there are some brain sucker enemies who have a weird grab attack. Like, it's not like you're gonna instantly die and get your brain eaten. It's just you take some damage and, you know, hypothetically, if you were killed by these guys, maybe you would get your brain eaten.
If I remember correctly, I think that does happen in they like grab you and just hold on. They'll just suck your brain out from your fucking nose, and you're just like,
Yeah.
I love saber die effects. Thank you.
Yeah, we're avoiding that one, you know. Trying to get you too much in that. Genesis is not really formatted that way. They do have some effects that are, you know, likely to be lethal. There are, you know, there are stats for, like, a classical mythological Gorgon, which has the whole full petrifying gaze effect, which I'm gonna repurpose for several things. But the way that works is it's almost like a special case of a poison or a critical injury. You know, if you fail the resistance check, you know, you get, you know, immobilized first, and then if you fail it again, you get staggered, and then if you fail it again, you're petrified, which is basically like, functionally, you're dead until somebody cures you. The curing you check is about as difficult as the resistance check to avoid getting petrified, you know? So, like, it's a multi-stage process where several times you are able to get out of it, and even if your character is, like, completely incapacitated, you can still be fixed, assuming it's not, like, a total party run, you know? So, the Brain Eaters are, you know, squirrely little fucks. They've got a lot of intellect. They are casters, so they get access to magic that adds some fun building. And they can do, you know, weird things to you that are often more mentally, you know, attacking your strain thresholds and stuff. But there's no, like, if you fail the save against the grab, your brain is eaten. Nah. We're not going quite that far, you know? And the Brain Eater larvae don't even have, like, a special effect to, like, inhabit people, per se. I even write in their notes, they're just, you know, dumb little weird eelworm creatures. They can't really, like, get into your system if you're, like, conscious and resisting. So there's no real reason for adventurers to worry about getting Brain Eater infested. Like, that's like a plot hook thing, not like a mechanic where you save or die, you know? But they're still greebly and gross.
Yes.
And none of you are happy they exist, but that's why they're here. Definitely a thing I wanted to do. There are suggestions of a lot of this stuff in the core book, but definitely with the GM scrolls in the adversary sections. I wanted to make sure that both myself and any future other people who may see this in its, you know, finished form have a wide variety of things to pick from. Like, even you guys have kind of seen that. You guys have run into, you know, things that are very naturally occurring mobs that are just kind of hostile and aren't really smart enough for you to reason with, you know, like the black ooze that gave us so much trouble. That was just, you know, the thing. It was a type of, you know, really mobile fungus that was hungry. Or possibly thirsty. It's unclear. Anyway, you had to deal with it. In other cases, you guys have run into, you know, wraiths and ghosts, unquiet spirits of the dead. You guys have actually fought goblins, you know, the proper forces of darkness. In our latest thing with the Old Stone Quarry, you guys ran into the signs of some, you know, dragon cultists, some guys who worship the true drakes like they are, you know, divinities. Which is, you know, that's mostly like a philosophical or theological breaking point. Most of you guys are pretty, you know, fairly orthodox in your spiritual beliefs, so that's just like a general no-no, but it's not also like a terrible thing. And as we go through later stuff, I'll, you know, include more, you know, mods, more forces of darkness, more just bad dudes. You guys definitely have run into, you know, criminals who oppose you. Though I'm definitely, and I can say this because Dallas probably won't listen to this, and if he does, well, I made you listen to this many hours of this to find it. Haha, joke's on you. I'll take my ad revenue down and my watch hours. I'm definitely gonna try somewhere in here to pepper in characters who openly identify as with the Thieves Guild, but are not doing anything actually bad to you or to other people.
Yeah, so we can trigger Dallas's justice boner.
Yes, so I can kind of play with expectations. Because obviously I wrote those first couple of guys from the Thieves Guild you ran into back in Blue Bridge to be antagonistic. You could have, like, sold out Gwen to them, but she was a cute cat girl, so you didn't do that.
Listen, I am simple, but I am consistent.
Yeah. No, I kind of know how to play these games and get you guys interested in some things. I'm pretty sure for the most part, the loot that I generated for this slice of the adventure ended up with everybody it needed to.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody I thought was my first initial thought for, you know, who would get it. But could also have been some other people. And don't you worry, I said this earlier. There's a back half of this as well. There's more going on here, so there'll be more funny drops to distribute to people.
It's exciting. I can't wait.
I'm also... I haven't had a chance to turn in anything yet, but I'm glad you explicitly spelled out that Porter would be interested in axes, hammers, and staves.
Yeah.
Ooh, I can work with this even more.
Yeah, no,
I can find even more fun stuff.
Oh, shit. Yeah, no, it's like one of those things. Like, I know it's, probably melee heavy, probably.
Yep.
Listen, I've been hyper focused on my skills, like, so much. It actually, like, surprises me a little bit.
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised. You asked a question earlier in the week about knowledge skills and figuring out what exactly knowledge geography was, and you said that you were going to switch from buying your next spec, which you were previously pretty excited about, to actually getting that to 4.
Yeah, no, well, like, it's one of those things of I want my character to be known for doing, like, very specific things, and it's, like I said, Porter's only int 1. He's not a sharp tool in the ship, and this hasn't actually come up in character, but he has found a quote-unquote life hack by, you know, dumping all these points into knowledges. He's actually able to supplement his knowledge on a lot of things, which, you know, makes sense on, like, on a I blew everyone up, on a thing, and I want, like, did you die? Oh no, you just, I'm on the roof. Where am I? I guess I'm just roof hopping some more. But, like, cause you've been doing this thing. Wait, that's Yasuke. You've been doing this thing where, if we have just a certain level of a, ability, it's like, no, you don't need to roll, just fucking do it.
I'll go.
And I do like Porter being the, you know, the world traveler and stuff, and, you know, knowing the rules and stuff, so that's why, like, getting Divine 5 was more me just being mad that I couldn't get a good roll to save my damn life.
Yes, that was you bullying the dice system until it couldn't help but give you mostly successes.
Yes.
And even sometimes still the dice come up oops all advantages, but
yeah.
that is intentional.
Yeah, but the knowledge rules and knowledge geography, I definitely wanted to, you know, be the party lead on, because Porter, you know, very specifically You know, the one that has, you know, traveled the world. He's been to the Polish League before. He's been to the Midlands. He's been to the Highlands. He's been to Longu. You know, he's done all that and more. But especially with like starting experience and whatnot, it's very hard. Oh, there's a Kodama there. I gotta wait for him to pop back up, I think. There he is. Thank you. But it's hard to represent. And I know other characters also have some knowledge geography. I don't remember who. I think like one other person, maybe two. I'm
fairly certain that Axe has a little, because his base class is Ranger, so I think Dungeoneering and Geography came up.
Yeah, and I think Dallas might have a
Dallas might have a point too.
Yeah, and I'm just like, okay, I literally cannot be outdone by these other people who, for all intents and purposes, really haven't traveled the world. I mean, Leona has, because, you know, she came from Longu, but I don't actually know what she did here. And fucking Dallas's character was just stuck up north and stayed there most of the time, so I'm just like, okay.
Yeah.
Like, I know it's weird, and it's, what's the word I want to use? It's, I don't want to necessarily say it's selfish, but pride, like, it has more to do with pride.
I was gonna make a joke that it's in the employment contract for the Travelers of the Many Paths is niche protection.
Yeah, but I enjoy having my niche and being the one to be able to rely on a thing. If everyone can do everything, then why does anyone do anything?
Yeah.
So that's why
I know that sometimes, especially early on, sometimes other players would kind of, because obviously you were our most enthusiastic player for
yes,
like Gensakai. There was definitely a push for some of the other players to like try and more directly hook into you and stuff you did and have like synergy with some of your skills and stuff, because, you know, you were big into the forefront and stuff. And you kind of discouraged that because you wanted people to try and kind of find their own footing, which as the GM I kind of agree with. Like, party templates and synergy are cool, and that's why, you know, we have session zeros and establishments and stuff. But I also came into this with like, okay, I am coming up with a bare minimum of you guys will have some level of experience with each other, which was you guys were on a very basic bitch, you know, escort mission in a caravan for a couple weeks with each other, so we can iron out a lot of the normal small talk, but also not necessarily be like, you've been friends for 10 years. So, you know, there was growing room for character interactions. But it's definitely like, because this is meant to invoke a lot of classic RPG tropes, whether it's video games or tabletop RPGs, there definitely is something to be said for like every class. You know, there are only 8 base classes. Every class has its thing and should stick to it. And I would also say I don't think the game necessarily rewards diversifying. Like, obviously, if you have a really good stat, if you have a good characteristic, if you buy 1 or 2 points and all the skills tied to that characteristic, that's pretty good for you because your default characteristic is so good. But then there's, you know, 6 different characteristics, and you can't be good at all of them because dedications are so rare, and you know, they're so expensive to buy up at character creation, right?
Right. Oh, I did not go in here? Okay. Wheel Monk!
But so, like, on the one hand, yes, with knowledge skills, I tried to, you know, spread them out, give a few. You know, there are a lot of, some of them are armchair players. Some of them are actually people who've gotten off their butts in unit design, whole, you know, Genesis type works that might even be available on the Foundry. They're kind of like semi-open gaming license thing. A lot of them are like, you know, minimal knowledge skills. You can get away with 1 knowledge skill, or like, you know, maybe 3. And generally, I think most of us, even ourselves, agree, Star Wars ended up with too many when they were done. There's like 8 or 10 knowledge skills in that.
Really?
Yeah, there's a lot, because they added some extras. Like, I think it's like 8, because there were like 6 to start. Because there's like Core Worlds, Outer Rim, Xenology, Underworld. Let's see. There's Education.
I remember.
Yeah, Warfare got added. And then there's also Lore. Knowledge Lore is another thing that was for Jedi and stuff. And I think there's another one I'm forgetting because they're so obscure. But yeah, there's like 7 or 8 of them. And it's like, Yeah, that's a lot, and sometimes it's hard to tell what the purpose of that is. Like, why do you need knowledge underworld when you've got this skill called Streetwise, which is also all about finding underworld connections and black market hookups and knowing where the crime at, you know?
Oh, where the crime at?
Like, obviously, on the one hand, there's maybe a purpose for it because knowledge skills are int-based, Streetwise is cunning-based, but you can still get around that through other ways, you know? But I went with the 4 for Genesis and Gensakai because I felt like it was a good balance of giving different things, and this is why we had those questions when you're talking about geography. I have very clearly outlined what skills knowledge-wise go where, you know. Knowledge dungeoneering is for, you know, threats, obstacles, monsters. You use that to, like, remember how a dungeon is laid out. Remember what a mob might do that can kill you. You know, maybe not understand the ecosystem of that mob or, like, its history if it's a singular mob, but, like, this monster is on fire. I bet it's weak to water kind of stuff, you know? Knowledge geography is all about navigation, cultures, and, you know, physical landmarks. So it's like remembering where a thing is, how to get to that place, and what that place is like. Maybe not history of that place per se, but, like, what's important about there, you know? Rules is tied to the magic stats. It's important to have knowledge skills tied to magical casting, so rules is the one used for that. That's also for general history, cosmology, theology, that kind of stuff, and is also used for, like, identifying certain magical things. And then outside is probably the most, like, diverse one, because outside is both anything that is spooky and rule-breaking, so chaos shit, demons and stuff, that's all outside. But also outside covers your knowledge of things from, you know, your original world. So you can roll no outside to, like, you know, apply outside knowledge to the game. Though, again, I make sure to specify there's no guarantee that it works. Like, for instance, I believe Dallas does have some, like, out-of-career no outside, because it makes sense for his character backstory. He's got a little bit of history with, like, cults and stuff. Did you buy any no outside?
No.
Yeah, no. So you're just, you know, one in. Makes sense. You're a priest. You don't know shit about this. You're supposed to get outside your wheelhouse. I believe Rion, Aaron's character, has the most outside, but that's because I think he is one of the characters who has his best grasp of his outsiderness and actively is, like, utilizing, you know, outside knowledge. He's trying to, like, figure out, you know, electricity and Wi-Fi and shit because he remembers it. Again, no guarantee that it'll work exactly like Rion remembers it working, but, you know, we can get some funny ideas that way. I think that, you know, just because the different knowledges they have, Leona and Mortis have ended up kind of split on dungeoneering. Makes sense for Leona to do the dungeoneering angle. She's your ranger, you know, remembering what mobs do and, you know, finding your way through dungeons is kind of her thing. Dallas works as kind of a backup for some of that. Honestly, I think Dallas ended up with such a wide spread of skills because otherwise he would have had to double up on a very small number of skills. So he got a little eclectic with his starting skill choices, his free skills. You got snake stabbed.
Yeah, I got snake stabbed. Luckily, I've been unlocking shortcuts.
Yee.
Like this one. But I gotta kill this skeleton.
But knowledges and stuff worked out, and I think it's good. I wrote this system with the spec trees and, like, very narrow classes, specializations, talents and stuff to kind of imitate that granular feel of a lot of old school, you know, RPGs, whether they are computerized or tabletop. The Genesis is usually a little more freeform, but this, you know, being the way it is allows you to get that kind of feel. So I'm, like I said, I'm down to clown with a joke about niche protection. And I know that in some cases you guys have really focused on specific skills. I know that, like, Axe spent a lot of time diversifying Leona's skills, getting a couple of points in the things she was supposed to be really good at. You know, I think all of the magic casters have failed enough magic checks to have invested a handful of extra points in their magic casting stat.
Yes.
Like, I know Mortis hasn't gone really ham on his no rules yet to amp up his bonus effect, but, like, I think he's at, like, Arcane, like, 2 or 3 already from, like, a starting 1.
Bonus effects are nice.
Yeah. But, Jinsekai going well, and I've been writing the like I said, the Abomination and Aberrant stuff, because I want to be able to throw lots of different stuff at you. Like, I want to be able to pivot and be like, okay, you guys have been fighting demons for a while. Here's some chaos cultists. They're really freaky.
And you're just like, oh no.
You want to fight a roper, a Vespa Bowl, an Amorphous Void.
That sounds.
An Amorphous Void, by the way, being I managed to like kit bash Shoggoths and colors from out of space into one weird shapeless thing made of colors that are not natural.
Okay.
Vespa Bowls is just that's from the Latin for wasp and for mushroom, so they're just kind of vaguely Migo or maybe Bayeki-esque. They're just kind of weird dudes that hang out in the outer chaos. There are Chronohounds, time dogs.
Corner hounds?
No, Chronohound.
Oh.
But it's pronounced similar to Chronohound, so it's like that. They do like straight lines.
But not right angles.
Yeah. I do know they can become confused by curved geometry. But it turns out that this creature but a dog is a great template for lots of minions. Hence why you guys have already run into dogs but a dragon.
Yeah.
There are regular wolves. There are magic wolves. I don't think there are anything in Fey or Elemental that are explicitly dog-like per se. Though I had a lot of wide variety in the Fey as well. Also I could fucking write even more. Not only do I have a lot of diverse Western fairy types to get out, but I also did a syncretism, and basically a lot of classical yokai shapeshifter type creatures are also technically Fey. They are, nature spirits of a sort. So I've even included in some of my notes, like for instance with the, you could remodel the Satyr stats to be more like a Tanuki. There's the Nyx, the Water Fae. You could remodel that to be a Kappa.
Mm-hmm.
Lots of stuff like that. And I could have gone... not even counting the fact that there are explicitly yokai that are in the stat lines. Like, 2 out of my 3 nemesises are technically yokai-inspired. You've got Great Tengu and Oni. Though I do at least note in my Oni setups, that's kind of a thing where it's like, Oni are weird. Not only are they weird mythologically, but they're weird in setting. They look like giant kin, but they're definitely spiritual like fairies, but they're kind of elemental. But they don't work like elementals. They're just kind of weird. But they serve a function similar to Fae, so I categorize them in there. But the Abominations is supposed to be, lots of weird creatures. Obviously, we talked to the other thing I showed you was I didn't show you the description, but I showed you the random loot table for mimics.
Yep.
Because if mimics explicitly have, 1 or more random items in their bellies, because they look like chests or barrels or storage crates.
Damn it.
Boxes of a sort. Sinister boxes of stealth. Wardrobes. Well, I mean, you'd probably have to go somewhere where there are Tengo and look for them. That might be a little rough. I don't know if the team wants to make the pilgrimage to Longu anytime soon.
Not anytime soon.
But, there might be other remote mountaintop forests, places you can go. There's some lore and stuff. And I mean, other than occasionally when Dallas does this in the middle of a different conversation, I don't particularly mind when Dallas is like, I'll make a question, lore question.
Yeah.
I love to get those out of character and, pitch them to you about what you'd know. And sometimes if it's like, what would I know about blah, 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 I can pitch that as, okay, roll me a check. Honestly, if you guys haven't noticed, I do adjust difficulties for certain characters based on what would be more likely they would know. And sometimes I'll even be like, No, you definitely know this. Like, Leona probably understands basic Tengu lore without rolling any dice, and you would have an easier time figuring out places Tengu would hang out than other characters. Possibly better than anybody, but maybe Porter, but even then I'd probably still have Porter roll. It's just he would be better at that role because of his knowledge geo score.
Mhm.
And possibly even that might even end up being, you know, a no dungeoneering role. To be like, what are the habitats and habits of a mob-like thing?
That sounds
A weird spirit guy. I did at least make sure to give, you know, we've talked about this before, but I'm still keeping up my action of playing around with enemy stat blocks to just, like, tuck little bonuses in there, like little unique items they have or treasures, you know?
Oh yeah, no, you definitely see that with your Tengu thing. I'm not your Tengu, your Mimic.
Yeah. I made it a random table. That's one of 2 so far, and probably not going to be a lot more, but still works very thematically. And I not only put lots of mundane loot in there, but there are very specifically very Mimic-flavored loots in there, which are a little gross, but fun.
I mean, I think the tongue's neat, but it's the fucking tongue.
Yeah. Well, they're shapeshifters, so what if they had a sharp tongue? Well, it's a tongue blade. So it's a melee light weapon that's got, you know, extra reach and got some fun stuff that you can do. You can also get a mimic skin cloak, which apparently is not that weird, because I was hunting for, like, interesting ideas for mimic loot, and several video games and stuff are like, get weird cloaks from mimics, or pick up mimic skins. And so I'm like, okay. You can get a mimic, you can turn its skin into a cloak. It gives you an extra bonus for ranged defense and stealth, and also has fun stuff. You can change the color and texture. You can consume mimic teeth to get extra skullduggery and stealth bonuses. The consume, by the way, is vague. Maybe you eat mimic teeth. Maybe you just, you know, crush them. Doppelganger would either be under the Fae category or under the demons. I might tuck that one in one of them somewhere else. I thought at first when for instance, you were earlier, you ran into a Nurikabe, a wall demon, and I was like, oh, I forgot about those. Should I put those guys in Fae? And then I was like, no, demon ones.
Sir.
Because I've played a Final Fantasy.
Yeah. Like, as soon as you said that, I just knew. I was like, oh no.
Like, yes, wall demons.
It's that!
So that'll show up there as a funny thing we can do. But yeah, but also for, you know, to your point earlier, in the Tengu stat block, they do actually have a couple of different, you know, items for different stuff they can do.
Do they have a Tengu staff?
In addition, staff no, but they do have a fan, classic fan.
Well, the fan's important. Fire!
So the Tengu are carrying lots of different little items and weapons they can do, which also diversify their stat blocks, but also, you know, options for, like, what if you met a friendly Tengu? He could give you a thing, and you would be like, neat thing. Like, for instance, the Tengu fan I mentioned, that's a magic implement. It gives you +3 base damage, and you can add impact, lightning, and any primal-only effect without increasing the difficulty. You could also add the manipulative effect with primal. That's normally Arcana only, but you still increase the difficulty. So that's probably, like, a really neat thing for Leona when she eventually gets into her spellcasting spec. And I don't know, Axe, that might be the time you want to try and arrange training with a Tengu. They are known for their sage arts and being weird, powerful primal casters. But other things they have is, you know, they've got the classic, the gourd. The Tengu gourd. Once per encounter, you can use a maneuver to use your gourd to heal 5 strain or 1 wound. Once per session, you can use the gourd to try and recover a character who's been incapacitated or killed during this session. If you use it that way, at the end of the encounter, they heal wounds and strain and critical injuries and any other status effects, but take an extra small critical injury. So, you know, fun stuff.
Fire, fire,
Lots
fire,
of weird
fire!
things they do.
Sorry, I was burning slightly out there.
As you do. Your weakness is truly fire.
Fire maps are always fun, just in the fact of, like, I now have to contend with me who usually, dodges all over the place. I can dodge straight into fire. And that's no good. Oh god, I'm always getting lost. Where do I fucking... Is it this way? It is this way. I just realized I am going the absolute way I do not need to fucking go every time. The fucking shrine is there. I need to go... If I'm remembering this right, I need to go this way. I keep going that way all around and like fighting like 5 things. Wait, no.
Yeah, so you've got a kind of mini-map here. But I assume that's mostly enemy detection?
It will let me know where enemies are, where treasure is, Kodamas, and Amrita. Because I have a special thing. But yeah, oh wait, no, is it
Yeah,
this
but it's
way?
not like an area map.
No. I actually have to, look around and figure it out. Like, don't get me wrong, I adore the enemy map, because when I see a red dot in front of me and I don't see an enemy on there, that's why I'm just like,
Sus.
Very.
Yeah, that's another thing. A lot of Soulsborne games in general don't do is the mini mapping. I don't know whether that's supposed to be in opacity or just it's harder because they add a lot of twists and turns. That's something that Elden Ring is not better at. I still get lost sometimes because rooms look a lot the same.
It's like, I'm okay with not having the mini-map, but at the same time, it's just... When these areas are a little bit more open like this, it's very easy to get lost.
Yeah. Does your mini-map have like a compass ring on it so you can tell north anyway?
No.
Yeah, even that much would be handy so you can keep reference. That is something, again, that I appreciate about Elden Ring. It does have a compass ring on it, which tells you north, south, east, west. So it's like, okay, I can figure out my bearings. Somebody tells me something is to the east, I can be like, okay, cool, I know to go that way. That was a problem I think I had at a couple points in Bloodborne where NPCs were like, yes, you see that place over there to the east? I'm like, what the fuck way is east? Is it towards the sun? Is the sun rising or setting? I don't know. But we'll figure it out. You find your bird. Your spirit bird. You got your shit back.
Don't touch me.
But yeah, I am continuing to work on fun Gensakai stuff to throw at you guys. I like, obviously we're playtesting, so there's general completeness to all the lore stuff I want to get out and all the kinds of, weird creatures and other things I've mentioned in fluff blocks that I want to do just to like be like, yeah, I've got that. I've crystallized that idea. But also genuinely, as we're doing the playtest, a lot of this just gives me extra ideas. Like, there were for instance, on the table of encounters you could have had in the wilderness, there were quite a few elementals ended up on that, just because that was the NPC section that I was most recently like complete all the way through with. And there were also a couple of like minor Fey encounters on it. If I rework that table, there may be a variety of other different things I can put on it. Both one, because, different environments, different challenges, and I've advanced more NPCs, but also because I might be less afraid to put slightly tougher things on it, but not too much. I feel, even though you guys have a lot of EXP, overall, like, I think you guys are on, like, your 4th heroic ability point now.
I believe so.
Because you're at over 200 spent. Like you said, you guys have been fairly diversifying with it, and a lot of time you've put it into, like, non-combat utility skills. Or even if you put them in your combat skills, you guys are not necessarily, like, completely, like, outpacing on a curve of, like, earning money and gear. Like, your spellcasting 5, I think you're a single, like, most powerful spellcaster at Divine 5. But you are, I think, our worst off in terms of like, spellcasting damage, because you've got a lot more limited implements than the other guys.
Yeah.
And don't worry, I'll get you some fun stuff to work with that.
I'm not
I'll get you some
worried about
choices,
it.
but still, it's like you're not overpowering as a combat caster because there's only so much damage bonus you can do. Similarly, Dallas invested heavily in talents because for a long while he was kind of suboptimal as a damage dealer, but now that he's gotten a lot of his talents, he's actually like pretty potent as a melee damage dealer because of his spellblading abilities and his ability to mix up magic. So I did in our on the road level, we did kind of talk about how. Honestly, no. I think your damage is fine. Range damage is pretty good, but there's a reason why I gave you a base damage upgraded longbow most recently, because it's gonna be kind of hard for you to like statically flat increase a lot of your range damage, because a lot of more powerful ranged weapons either come with drawbacks. Like if you went to an arquebus, you'd have slow firing limitations, repair limitations, or like they come with like lots of extra unwieldy and shit, you know, which you might not be on the stat curve for yet. Like when fighting, you know, lots of weak enemies, Leona as the ranger is really good at you know, at clearing trash mobs. Which you're a ranger, and you're in the ranged DPS spec. That is what you're good for. So you know that is to the expectation. I have noticed with a certain amount of bosses, like if bosses have a lot of ranged defense or adversary or
rude.
Or other like defensive abilities, you still have problems getting through that. That's why you ended up buying those magic goggles the other session, because it was like, that's right, I can buy magic items to counteract the fact that I can't see in the dark. So, you know, there's lots of ways you guys can grow, and in some cases you're only growing. And even still, you're limited, you know, by your cash outflow. I did, you know, narratively, I was like, okay, you're not getting paid today, but you'll get paid tomorrow. So there were some cases where you guys were like, well, that means I don't think I can get this item until we get paid this other money, you know? Mm-hmm. And it do be like that sometimes. So, you know, I think because you guys have not doubled down on all of your stuff into combat things, we are not necessarily having a huge issue. And, like, you know, I think you're fairly advanced lucky in Porter's white hat, but again, that mostly just means you're a really good healer, so you guys can get pretty roughed up in fights and bounce back fairly well.
Actually, I'm not that advanced in it, honestly. I've only cleared the 10 level.
Yeah, I know you weren't super deep, but like I said, that's what I mean. Like, even if you've been buying up those low-level talents, that's a healing spec. There's a couple of cool casting things in it, but mostly it's just, hey, you're good at healing people. So that when your very, very squishy ranger and very, very squishy wizard, you know, actually get hit by an attack because I put more than 2 enemies in it, so your tank can't challenge them all at once. And they get hit, and they take a lot of damage, they can, you know, bounce back. But you guys are getting stronger, so I can occasionally, like, up them. Though definitely, like, it inspires me to not be completely... you know, I guess linear in terms of like making opponents stronger for you guys, you know? Like, honestly, I ended up designing like all of the Abomination stat blocks so far and a decent number of the higher level fairy stat blocks after we started coming back to playtesting.
Really?
And you know, for this new wave, and a lot of those guys are like a little lower on the end of like, you know, maybe they don't have a shitload of wounds or a shitload of soak and stuff, and some of them don't have a lot of, you know, really good damage mitigation. I don't know, you might be. Let's see, what are you? You're in Honoji, right?
Yeah. Sorry, I'm looking for the thing that will release this fucking this demon thing, so I can wait. Maybe it's you. No. To release this demon aura, so I can activate the save point, so I can have, because I'm pretty sure that's the boss right over there.
Yeah.
But I'm not finding it, and it's weirding me out a little bit.
Oh well, I assume it's in. Is it It's normally, you know, in the zone where stuff is weird.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what I would guess it would be in there somewhere. This is again where the mini map thing comes up. It's hard to remember where you checked all the corners.
Oh, it's probably through here. Okay, here we go.
Alright, we're solving it.
There you are. That Ipon Dantara right there. Okay.
But yeah, I think I mentioned this a couple of recordings ago, a couple of sessions ago, but like I did the stat lines for like satyrs, and I was like, yeah, in a straight up fight, you guys could probably body like half a dozen satyrs, you know? It would be a really annoying fight because their main thing is that they're full of debuffs. But physically, they're not very powerful, and you know, kind of trying to keep myself, you know, balanced with like how certain enemies interact with you and work, but also keeping them, you know, kind of up there. Spellcasters are certainly like give you a lot of interesting ways you can, you know, fuck with people that don't necessarily be the direct method. You know, you can do lots of other stuff like cursing people back, etc. You know, because you guys use lots of curses and barriers, but I haven't had you fight a lot of spellcasters. Fun fact, that would have been that optional boss fight. That was another enemy caster.
I mean, I think I only started using curses like in the last adventure, really.
You and Rion both used curses a decent amount in our first batch of playtests.
Oh, we did?
The first 6 episodes.
I
Yeah.
literally just don't remember.
Yeah. I mean, there were only a small handful of fights, and you guys, like, I think alternated doing it off and on. But back before he got some upgrades as well, especially as well. Rion has specific curses he's used as well. You've really cottoned on to the fact that there's a divine only effect for curse, which is pretty good. Very very strong.
Very strong.
But you know, still works because you got to set it all up.
Yeah, actually, that's something I need. I need an item that will take my fucking take my concentration penalty away from me. That's what I need. Because my signature spell, Land Strike, it still takes even though it gives me a maneuver, but that maneuver is immediately eaten up to maintain the spell. I'm just like, huh. I am not entirely sure.
Well, you know, you do have a little bit of leeway there because it's when you stop concentrating, it's only until the end of your next turn. So, you know, it's your next turn, so there's a little bit of flexibility. You could, for instance, cast it on yourself, use 2 maneuvers to do something, and then not have to concentrate to keep it up until the next time you go.
Well, but that still means that's only good for like well, doing a double move action really, because it gives me 2 maneuvers, but I had to spend my action to cast.
True. Yeah. There's a little bit of complication.
Yeah.
There is a talent which I think you have access to somewhere in there that you can get relatively soon. Conduit, you can spend a story point to do it as a maneuver.
Yeah.
Obviously, with the getting double maneuvers, that's still, you know, you're using up lots of maneuvers, but in general spellcasting, that can free up some of your actions. And does allow you to double cast, because there's no rule that says that you can't use your action to spellcast, and then if you have that special ability and spend the story point, you use your maneuver to spellcast also.
Mm-hmm. Let's see here.
I believe Rion has that ability, actually, and has done that before. Blast, then blast again. But yeah, I'll definitely, with our... I've got a handful of ideas for Venetus stuff and that general area. You know, a couple of different quests to send you on, make you interact with some fun NPCs for, you know, complementing and contrasting characters type stuff. So we can figure out some fun things to work on you and still throw in a wide variety of enemies.
It's this fucker. Am I have to go to fight this dude again?
Maybe. The other thing I was going to say about the Jinsekai work is I'm still kicking away at that. I'm having, you know, fun doing it as we're working on it. I definitely feel like, you know, with the vibes, you've been pretty into Neo 2, and I'm like, was getting ready to play it before. God, he's summoning fiery wheels. What a fucker.
Oh no!
Oh no.
Oh no, she's hot! Literally!
Yeah, Kasha, fucking fiery wheel flyer.
Yep. I mean, I love the design. I really do.
Yeah, you know, the name Kasha translates to burning chariot. I don't know if that was, you know, normally that's a big titty cat girl.
But, you know, but even so, they saw an opportunity and they took it.
I did also just Google it. There is a sketch of a weird cat thing with a similar name, so, you know, we're in the right ballpark. Kasha Neko, yeah. So, you know, we're ballpark. Oh, in Harima province, old women with bad personalities are said to be Kasha Baba, with the nuance that they are old women like Abake Neko. Okay, there was some cat synergy here. But other people on the internet may mostly know them as just giant fiery chariots that try and murder you. We got a lot of fun stuff going on. But with the like Neo 2 vibes, and also recently playing Heian Kyo, and check out our spoiler cast for that soon. Wait a couple hours. I definitely kind of feel like. Oh, and also actually, like I said, I am. On the internet, thanks to helpful people, I got access to some images of some of the content that's in the latest L5R source for Rid of the Wilds. I have been in a little bit of a vibe with that. I'm not quite ready to start, like, hardcore banging away at my L5R campaign again. Because we're still in the middle of lots of different stuff, Like, we've got Sprawl things to work on, and I'm sure that when I, work on the Sprawl and finish up that world building, and we'll be asking exciting questions. And whenever the next Cyberpunk updates, I'll be, writing way more Singularity War lore and stats and stuff. You know me, I bounce from projects a lot. Eventually, you guys are going to be like, hey, Wika, when's the next Delta Green? And I'll be like, oh, yeah, I'm in the middle of that. I'm in the right in that. We were really into Gensakai, so I stopped for a little bit. We have lots of different stuff to cycle through as we work, but I'm definitely kind of getting a little bit in that mood. I'm not, like, fully ready to commit, but I am reminded constantly that I have, like, 3 L5R novels on my shelf that I haven't read yet, and I'm like, man, I really should read those sometimes. Mm-hmm. So, just on that a little, got some reading to do, got some catch up. And then I've got like 2 or 3 more to buy after I read the ones that are in my backlog. They keep the RPG publishing may be a little fuckled, but the novel division of Asmodee, Aconite Publishing, is fucking churning them out, baby. Knocking those out of the park. I actually have a lot of books I need to pick up on my list. Maybe I'll do that with holiday money. Sorry, it's getting a little warm in here again. It's after dark. It's starting to cool off. It's 69 degrees outside. Nice. I probably need to open a window sometime soon. But I think I'm most of the way through the stuff to talk about. So I do want to kind of, you're playing Neo 2. I've talked a lot about with the L5R RPG, the current edition by Fantasy Flight. That's got a lot of interesting and fun mechanics in it. It's kind of funny how I don't think they necessarily deliberately tried to have these parallels with like video games. Some of it is just some pop culture stuff, but like if you wanted me to explain kind of how certain parts of like L5R's tabletop mechanics work, I could totally point them out using some video game examples. Oh, again, Ninetales. But like, I think I've talked before about how like the game mechanics work with like your physical endurance stat isn't like your health. It's like how tired you are. You're only at serious risk of being injured if either your enemy is so good as to hit you with a critical injury while they're depleting your endurance, or they actually like run you out of fatigue, right? Mm-hmm. So you get tired and then they deliver a killing blow. That is a lot like certain mechanics in like Sekiro or Ghost of Tsushima, where you're not necessarily directly hitting your enemies. You're kind of breaking their stance to open them up to a really big hit that's the actual lethal part. It also always has had very explicitly a stance system, a stance mechanic. And so it's kind of funny that like I've been thinking about that again as we get into Neo 2, and the stancing is a very important aspect of it. Their stancing is a little more metaphysical than Neo's, very explicit high, low, mid kind of a thing. But your core stances are usually like aggressive, defensive, flexible, stuff like that. They're all rooted in the 5 rings and your 5 elements, so there's a lot of stuff there. But it's just funny how many of these analogies I can work into it. Rid of the Wilds is kind of a weird book. I once again will probably not be busting out. Oh, it's a fucking pinwheel?
That's sick.
Oh, I thought it was like a whip sword, but it's a pinwheel you throw. That is cute.
No, it's a fucking what are they called? Kendama? Kendama top. Is it a kendama? I can't remember.
It sounds about right. Definitely something in that ballpark of syllables. It's a flaming top. That's funny. Yeah. That is cute. I like that. But yeah, like I said, Rid of the Wilds is a weird book. I think it kind of suffered from what sounds like some some design complications, and I think it makes sense. This is supposed to be the Dragon Clan source book. If you don't remember from any earlier conversation we had about L5R, Dragon Clan live up in the north in the mountains. They're big on like Zen and individualism. You know, every person must find their own path, kind of a thing, which is, you know, generally a little weird for a culture that is very strongly inspired by the letter of what, you know, samurai drama is supposed to be. There's a lot of stoicism and formalism and, you know, sacrifice for your clan. And Dragon are a little loosey-goosey with that. They have a lot of pragmatism because they live up in the cold, harsh mountains. But they also have a lot of, you know, spirituality. So some of the stuff you'd expect from a book themed around them is in there. There are descriptions of some wilderness places. There are some kind of, like, playing homage to like how samurai and other characters might survive when you're hoofing it in the wilderness and how that works. And there are, you know, at least the usual lore inclusion for like a lot of the lands, holdings, background fluff for the Dragon Clan and their different families. No, 5 versions of which? The wheel? Sorry, somebody in chat asked about 5 different versions like Okami. Are they talking about the wheel enemies?
Yeah, no, it's only fire.
Okay. That's good, at least, that they don't, like, Okami obviously being a PS2, you know, action, you know, fun, mythical game, action-adventure game, they obviously had limitations. A lot of the reason why enemies are like that is because they're reusing assets. Okay, we've got a wheel. We just cover it in blue smoke, and instead of a hand, we put a... or an eye, we put an ear on it. Woo! Now it's ice.
Hell yeah, I'm gonna run.
Was the ears the ice enemy? I think it was. The nose was the wind wheel.
Yes.
And the eyeball was the fire wheel, I'm pretty sure. There was a lightning wheel. I think that might have had an angry face on it. I don't remember. It's been a while since I played Okami. In before Omega is like, I should play Okami again. I could do that, but also I have lots of other new games to play. Maybe if they come out with a PS5 version of Okami, I'll buy it again. Allegedly, I forget her name because it's been a while since she's, you know, been out in the news. But, you know, that very memeable, energetic producer lady who was working on Ghostwire left that studio to go back to work with the guys at Platinum. So allegedly, there might be an actual Okami sequel they're developing. That's supposedly what they were working on. We'll see if it goes anywhere. But I would be down for a new Okami.
I remember they had the sequel Okami Den. It was like on the DS though, but
yeah, it was the DS. It's kind of hard to get these days. But there's still, I think, plenty of room, I think, that you could do with that.
Wait, no, I was still doing shit.
But yeah, so like I said, Rit has some of the stuff you'd expect, but not all of the stuff you'd expect. Like the third chapter about, you know, like I said, I can look at the outlines. The third chapter in these source books is usually like about how to work the themes in the book into your game. And let me pull it up. The subsections of the chapter in Rit kind of encapsulate in my mind how it's like it's a little oddball. Cause let me see.
Yeah, I can become the Wheel Monk. I do not want to become the Wheel Monk.
Yeah. Yeah, so, like, your sections are dealing with elemental imbalance in games. That's a big recurring theme about, like, weird shit can happen when the elements are out of balance. Portraying monastic orders in your game. You know, how monks and monasteries work. And then, you know, what they call stories of the strange, which is advice on using non-human characters. And then they've got some extra stuff, new titles. They've got a couple of conditions for modeling illnesses as a, you know, an interesting recurring plot aspect, but like it's a little all over the place, you know. And the the actual bit for player options is, again, kind of weirdly limited. There's no new Great Clan schools. There's just one new clan for the Dragonfly Minor Clan, who are related to the Dragon Clan, but are not them. And they have like non-human schools. They got a couple of Yobanjin, the mountain people who now live north of Rokugan. You know, they used to be the local human populace, but in the history they, you know, didn't join the new Rokugani culture, so they moved. Which are like interesting and certainly phrased like you could use them for other stuff. But it still like very weird and limited. There's a couple of good things. There's like a samurai heritage table for Dragon Clan, which is good. There's a couple of interesting like new like advantages they put in, like the new passions and distinctions and stuff. Like you can be passionate about kintsugi now.
Really?
Like they explicitly have the rules for that, and like that could be like your character's thing. You have a fondness for that style of art, and then when you get little bonuses if you actually, make sure to do that or check that out. I've always talked about this. I love how like passions and distinctions and anxieties and stuff work. Like you can really make your character very, very distinctive.
I think that's something I always liked about the 20 questions, all that stuff is Legend of the Fire Ring really makes you like double down on who you are as a character.
Yeah.
Like far too often I see people playing a game and they don't really interact with the world, I guess I want to say. They're usually very goal focused on their character. It's like, all right, I need my character to get this, that, and that, so I can go do that, and this, so I can achieve this, that, and that other thing over there.
Yeah.
But Legend of the Fire Ring actually makes you slow down and make you think about what your character does, and then your rewards or punishes you if your character does not interact with the world.
Yeah, and it asks you lots of questions that normally a lot of, the 20 questions has changed a couple times over the different editions. I mentioned earlier there's like 5 of these things. You might even count it 6 because they did come out with a 5e d20 hack that also really doesn't seem to be too worth it. But they might make their money back at least doing that because people will be like, ooh, 5th edition. But in general, a lot of these games were designed back in the 90s when a lot of people were like very D&D or GURPS focused, and a lot of like really fiddly mechanical type games. And this asks questions like, hey, what are your parents like? Who are they? Are they still alive? What do they do? Like shit that in normal, writing or acting exercises, these are the kind of notes for character beats and notes that you think of. But everybody knows the classic memes. They're not really true anymore. I will say that while sometimes this can affect expectations the other way, at the very least, one thing the kind of like blow up of Critical Role and lots of other very theatricalized APs have done is like made people aware of the theater of it. Like those characters are like usually have really intricate backstories that come up as Matt Mercer introduces them, So I think that people are thinking more about it, but if you've ever heard of the D&D cliche of the orphan character whose village was burned down and he was the only survivor and now he seeks revenge, that's because during the 80s and 90s and even sometimes during the 2000s, there were a lot of guys like that who just didn't want to think about what their backstory was. They're here to play this game to hit people with a sword. And I'm not going to say that, there's no wrong fun and all that stuff, but certainly depending on how in-depth your GM wants to get or how in-depth the setting writers want to get, you can sell yourself and the game short that way, which is what you're talking about, Lucky. The 20 questions forces you to think about these things.
I do want to point out, in our game, 3 out of 4 characters have run away from home.
It's true.
I'm just going to point that out.
But at least... Hold on. Fighting Steez. Oh, got it. But at the very least, you guys thought about your home and why you ran away from there.
Yes.
Like, a decent amount of effort was put into backstory about how that came about.
Yes, running away from a home, wanting to hide, and then they get announced at a nobles party, nice and loud. Yes, they are very good at this.
Well, at least for some of your characters, they're quite far away.
Yeah.
So don't you listen. I'll admit there are also some cliches of the adversarial GM, that you shouldn't give backstory NPC characters because your GM will use them against you. First of all, that's exactly why you should include NPC characters, so that if you have a little sister or a loved one or parents, they can be kidnapped or threatened or something, so that the GM can fucking get you on board with the plot. It's called character writing. Pathos, baby.
Ryan's on the run from the Red Tower, because he is stuck like a little kid, and he thinks that the elders are going to make an assignment.
Also, Aaron did talk about it earlier. He has blown up a couple of labs.
Yes.
He's caused some damages.
And Mortis is running because apparently he does not feel safe in the Northlands because of the neck. I'm not entirely sure what he's about, but I know there's a scary.
I don't think it's come out explicitly, but it should be fairly known. He may have a fear motivation of a nemesis.
Yes.
He has a particular person who is after him, and he's a little concerned about meeting that guy.
Yes. So him doing a wrestler entrance, I'm just like, yes, you are very concerned about staying undercover.
I mean, honestly, I know that all the time we don't enjoy Dallas's antics. I mean, we don't enjoy all of everybody's antics any of the time. It's very rarely that you can find somebody you every single thing they do is interesting 100% of the time. I do not necessarily mind a lot of the time where Mortis kind of ping pongs. You can come up with a Doylist and a Watsonian reason for that. The Watsonian reason is he's a construct who's made by kind of gluing a bunch of different souls together. So, sometimes he wants to act this way, other times he wants to act that way. We all have a great laugh whenever Dallas hits that frustration point, usually when he is knocked prone and just starts yelling at enemies. Because, he's trying really hard to hit them and it's not working. But it is definitely like a comedic beat, which is not necessarily off-tone, to be like, I'll do a wrestler entrance, also I'm being hunted. Wait a minute. If it isn't the consequences of my actions. There you go, gotcha. I brought up the DM thing to be like, I have my own thoughts and things for, like, how different aspects of your backstories can come back to, like, not necessarily to bite you, but to be like, let me give you, character spotlights and let you kind of fill out some other stuff. And it even reminds me, I need to double check some facts about something, but it's really not relevant right now. It needs to be when I'm writing my notes for next scenario stuff. I want to make sure I get backstory. But yeah, talking about the 20 questions, L5R forces you to ask these questions. My personal favorite one is the 20th question, which is just, how does your character think they'll die?
Yeah.
You are a samurai. You are no more than 3 feet from death at all times, the length of a katana blade. What death poems are a big thing. Your character should think about how they would think about how they're going to go out. So there's a lot of important fun stuff there. And like mechanically, there's a lot of decent flexibility. So a lot of the passions and distinctions you can pick, interesting heritages that work are cool. And some of the new techniques are interesting. They added more Kiho, more key techniques that should really round out those a lot, because there's like 3 or 4, I think, for each element, which are neat. One of them lets you basically tank for other characters. It's an Earth Kiho where you can basically do a fucking Final Fantasy style cover mechanic. You can take the damage for that other character. Just magically transplant it to yourself through the power of ki. Other fun stuff like that. There's a Void Kiho where you get to do your fucking supernatural ping. It's called Aura Awareness. You can just be like, a sense for weird shit. It's good. Yeah.
Oh shit. Where'd you come from?
But there's also some very fun general combat kata, which are cool. One of them I really like is there is a low rank, or a starting rank kata called Flexible Grip. It lets you as an action, but one that doesn't require a roll, so you can abuse the water stance system to get extra actions. It lets you change your grip on a polearm to switch it to be used as a staff.
Oh, okay.
So you can basically use the blunt end to make it a blunt weapon. which means that means you can use it with techniques that are compatible with polearms or blunt weapons, and just in general, you can, use the blunt end to thump people rather than, like, murder them.
I love that.
Yeah, and it says you can end this effect at any time at the end of your turn, or it just persists until the end of the scene. I'm just like, that's so cool. Like, obviously, I do kind of, I'm not, like, against the fact that it is a technique you have to learn, because, yes, that is actually, like, a knowing how to change your grip on a weapon is an actual, like, thing you would learn in a martial arts dojo or a martial arts school. Mm-hmm. So, but the fact that you can is like, oh, that's so neat. I love stuff like that. I mentioned this earlier. There's another really interesting one called Swallow's Dart Style. It references that thing about, the best way to cool, your sword technique might be great if you can catch a swallow in flight. Well, if you move like a swallow, you're hard to hit. I brought this up earlier. It basically lets you dodge tank. Mm-hmm. If you do a movement action in air stance, you can spend 2 opportunities to be, the next time you would defend against damage, the amount of damage you suffer is reduced by your focus, basically one of your initiative stats, minus how heavy your armor is, as opposed to your normal resistance. And, like, it's a little unfortunate. It's a thing you have to keep setting up, because you have to keep spending the opportunity, but still, that's really cool to be like, oh, wow, you can really make being, like, a lightly armored guy work now.
That sounds pretty sick.
Yeah. It rewards you for being highly mobile. You have to be doing movement actions and spending opportunities. Though there are some attacks that are like, as an attack and a movement action, do a thing to poop a guy. But yeah, that's like, wow, that really gives players a reason not to just constantly wear the heaviest armor. So I like that there's a lot of flexibility. There's some things that are a little weird. Like, there's some wilderness kata that they explicitly tagged like Yobanjin, and I'm like, I'm going to ignore that. I'm just going to let people, if they want to learn how to, like, prep themselves against harsh environments or whatever, you guys can pick that up. It's fine. One of them is it's called a ritual because it's basically a downtime action, but there's one called Cunning Snares. By default, that's a rank 2 technique for Yobanjin or Shinobi. So I'm like, that's neat. It gives you access to deadfall traps, pitfall traps, and rope snares. It's still a downtime action, but that's cool. That's neat. That's not very samurai, but it works. So like I said, it's got cool ideas, and it's got some of the, like, some background fluff stuff I'm interested in, but also it's definitely, like, it's a little chaotic. It doesn't go deep enough, I think. Like, for instance, there's all this focus on the Yobanjin people, people who are outside Rokugan but were inside it before. But there's not, like, any stat lines or stats for, like, acquiring their own, like, any unique cultural weapons they have or anything, or, like, unique armors they might wear, There's no, like, special stats for any weapons that a weird yokai might be carrying. There's not even any, like, Dragon Clan, like, relics in it, so it's a little weird. But it was interesting to read some of these excerpts I saw, and like I said, if I get around to reading some of my Alpha or catch up, I might work again on resolving my my campaign outstanding, because I got pretty far along. I've talked before. It's meant to be, like, kind of like it's formatted like an ongoing anime series type thing, vaguely episodic with, like, not necessarily incidents taking only one session, but, being fairly self-contained things you guys could do in any order that go places. And I'm most of the way done. I've got, like, 3.5 episodes worth of stories to get through, barring needing to, like, rewrite or add any stuff as extra mechanics came up. But we crossed our usual 3-hour threshold. I don't really have anything else in my notes. Actually, this is a question. I don't know if you actually said or not, but the other day you were recording and talked about if you did you get your bundle of light novels?
Yeah, no, they arrived. They arrived at 11 p.m. I wish I could have met the driver and apologized, because boy howdy, that's a late time to be out in the fucking store.
I've had them with a couple of deliveries from like Walmart or Amazon where, okay, it's really cool you guys got this to me, like, same day or, like, a day earlier than you said. But I feel kind of bad for the drivers, like, rolling around at 9 o'clock at night throwing shit on my porch.
Originally it was supposed to arrive between 5 and 9. And I'm thinking, oh, it'll be around, like, 6-ish. That'll be fine. That's not going to be, like, too much an inconvenience for anybody, you know? But 11 p.m. and it was dark and it was raining and I'm just all like, oh my god, can I give this man a tip? Like, fuck.
No,
like I want
like how a lot of delivery works.
I want my shit, but you know, I don't want people, you know, to, you know, have to go out of their way for it.
Well, and like it's also not necessarily convenient for you either. It means you got to poke your head out your door at like 11 o'clock at night.
It was cold.
Some people would be fucking asleep. Yes, it's cold. Also, it's winter.
Yeah, I know. Well,
like,
fortunately, lucky
you feel bad for the driver, but also it's a weird thing for you too.
Yeah. Luckily, we have a fenced yard with a dog on premise sign, so I'm usually not that concerned about people trying to pop in the fucking yard. But
Yeah.
still, you know, it's one of those things. I'm just like, yeah, but I got my novels. I've been reading them. Like I said, yesterday was Black Friday, and so Lucky had the agonizing decision to make to, you know, how much stuff is he gonna fucking buy. And you should all be happy to know that Lucky has indeed ordered his drawing tablet. I'm getting a Huon, shit, what is it again? I can't remember names!
Did you post the exact name?
I'm pretty sure I did. It's in patron chat.
I'm scrolling through a fuck ton of stuff in patron chat. That's okay.
That's a lot of Axe talk.
We had a lot of back and forth thing. Yes. A Canvas 13
Yeah.
drawing tablet.
It's not the most current one, but it's at a good price, and it was on sale like 30% off. So I was like, Also, I decided to get me a big computer desk. Big. Like, it has
Pretty
like
big desk.
tiers. It has shelves. I can put my Tamamo statues and the books I haven't read on it. Very important. Very important. But also enough space that I can put my keyboard underneath and have my tablet on top. Well, that's my intent. Before I had that, I never was really a fan having the slide-out keyboard, but I'm going to give it a try this time. I'm going to make it work. Because I'm going to need maximum desk space. Maximum desk space.
Yeah, I've had it both ways at different times. My current desk setup is, I don't have like the tiers, but it is a cabinet desk, so I have, you know, overhead cabinets, a top shelf, and drawers.
Mm-hmm.
So I've got more than enough room to store my computer tower, both my monitors, my keyboard and mouse, and my mic arm, you know, all on the same level, and then still have plenty of free space that I can continue to cram with random shit. Lots of dice boxes and other weird shit.
Oh, I can't go
You
through
know.
here.
When I get a new computer, what I will probably do is what I did with the last time. I haven't done it with this one because they're still packed up because I don't need them, but I'll just scooch my old computer tower over to the corner and put the new tower closer to the monitors because I have that much surface area.
Okay,
but,
you're just hanging out there.
I've tried it both ways with like the keyboard drawer and not, and it really just all depends on what you get used to.
Yeah, I'm gonna try and get used to it. That way I can, because I need to get a angled surface, and I'm gonna try hooking that up to my front here. So we'll see. We'll see. Like I said, I got the desk, I got the tablet. I think my next big purchase is probably going to be, I'll probably get me a new microphone, or at least get me oh my god, I can't remember what it was called. I should have kept it on my phone. But it's a blue Yeti mic, but it has the it's not the oh my god, I can't remember fucking nouns to save my life right now. It's okay. New mic early next year. Head Ninja split staff. That sounds sick. What is that? Head Ninja split staff. It's boring. Well, it does do more melee damage, so I guess that's neat, but listen, if you're not doing some sort of status effect with your weapon, you're doing it wrong.
Hey, you got status effects. Go for it.
Mm-hmm. Whoa, 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 whoa! Oh, you're alive. Now you're. That is a vaguely terrifying idea. Suicide bomber who does not die.
Yeah.
Onsen! Oh, there's someone in the fucking onsen! You mother... Get out! Get out! Get out! Who's in here? Who's? Oh, it's the angry girl. Oh, she angry. Explosions. It's all over.
Monsters. in the onsen.
Oh, it actually. Oh, it actually tracks her. That tracks the enemy.
That's pretty cool.
The area wasn't the best.
This is a pretty resilient enemy behind in the onsen.
Yeah. Bahaha.
Victory.
Good times.
But yeah, I brought up the novels in case you had anything you want to talk about. You reading, you watching, whatever.
No, not really. No, nothing really new. I'm just picked up the latest Reincarnated as a Slime. I've been having a bit of trouble with actually reading my books. Actually, like, you know, having to sit down and get through. Oh shit! Hi.
Oh. Trust me, I understand. I have talked about my book backlog.
So I'm like, been trying to work on that. I'm still like a book behind, but I'm trying to get through them. Like after actually we get done, I'm probably gonna go eat dinner, and you know, try and get some reading done. Try anyway.
Sounds like a good idea.
Scampus!
I'll be editing this audio really quick, but then after that, I'll probably wrap up my Jinsekai rating for the day and then go play Pokemon, because I haven't done that yet today. I have definitely been chewing through. I think my current thing is there's a lot of stuff going on. Watch, there's lots of videos coming out and video series I feel like I've been sucked into, and there's, you know, more content. Netflix has dropped a whole bunch of stuff. There's a new season of Inside Job I haven't checked out. If you guys don't know that one, it's an adult animation series, you know, in that kind of vein. But it's basically, imagine if every conspiracy were true except flat Earth. That's not true. That's fake. That's the joke. And there's a literal shadow government that's run like a corporation, and our main characters are trying to operate that. So it's like, imagine, you know, a dysfunctional office comedy, but also there's like, we have clones of JFK in the basement, and we made a robot president who went rogue and tried to nuke everything, and, you know, one of our coworkers is a mushroom man from the Hollow Earth, that kind of stuff. Pretty cool. I talked about the first season before. The part where it really clicked for me is, I think it was in one of the second episodes, but like, they make a joke because there's a greebly flesh monster raging around, like a degenerate clone of JFK, actually. Funny stuff. And they make an explicit reference where they're like, you know, somebody brings up like, you know, I don't know, have you seen Akira? Of course I have. Anime's very mainstream right now. And I was like, okay, I'm definitely sold on this tone of humor. I think they've shown in trailers that in this season there's a vampire hunting episode because Keanu Reeves is secretly a vampire. You know, they're going with that, you know, urban legend / joke.
My lord.
I mean, I remember the joke of showing the guy from like, what was it, like 400 years ago who looks.
Yeah, it looks pretty similar. Yeah. So there's gonna be some fun stuff. All right, who knows? Maybe I'll put some of that on while I play Pocket Monsters. But yeah, if you don't have anything else to bring up, like I said, I chewed through most of my notes and saved my cleared out text document. In a couple of hours, you know, we'll go up with that. I'll dish out that Let's Talk FGO for y'all if you're waiting for it. If you're not waiting for it, or if you know want to get it in right now, of course, Patreon, $1 for audio, $5 for early video. Also help us out and stuff. But we will probably go ahead and wind down. Usual, you know, shillage. Obviously, check out the Let's Talk FGO when it comes out. We record the APs on Sunday, but, you know, they come out a few days later whenever we get around to all the editing and uploading and stuff, and descriptions and posting or whatever. But Monday, we will be back with Plague Tale Requiem, possibly our final episode.
Maybe. It's a big maybe, but...
Yeah, we... how many chapters did you say it was? I forgot.
It's like 17.
You looked it up. 17, yeah. So you're at like 11 or 12 right now?
Yeah.
So, depending on how long those set pieces are, we did kind of leave in the middle of some action. We might wrap it up then, so we'll see. But Tuesday, obviously, we got more Fail Betrayal. It's the last Tuesday in the month, so you get to see us begin the suffering with the DDD that you voted for with the patron polls. A lot of Yu-Gi-Oh cards, and they have a lot of names that you're going to make me say. Thanks, Internet. You know what you mean. Wednesday, we'll be back with more Final Fantasy 14.
Oh, it's Anime Tara. Fuck you guys.
What are we doing? Stuff. Last time we beat Garuda. Now we have a weird dragon horse man to deal with, who is also a giant robot.
It is a dragon horse, isn't it?
So, that'll be a fun time. No guarantee on other streams and stuff throughout the week. That's kind of just, whenever I feel like it. But, we'll see what happens. Keep you guys appraised. With all that, also, yeah, it's a good time to log in to FGM. There is a total login thing going on, so you guys should, make sure you're getting your logins. It's not a streak, but still, it's good to get your days, get your rewards faster. This Hoppy Boy, he didn't log in yet. You're gonna make me see different Dimension Demon every time? No. This episode's already going to be possibly 2 sessions. I will start abbreviating to DDD. Hell, I might not even say the DDD. But we can come up with... There'll be some funny 3D memes, I'm sure, somewhere in the description of the thumbnail, because I'm, like that guy. Mm-hmm. I live for puns and titles of videos. Rolled my neck a little. It was very creaky. But yeah, keep your eye out for stuff. And we'll be seeing you. Like I said, again, keep up for that, That's a good one. Start on a Monday so we can finish it for Tuesday. Listen, there's a lot of cards, Lucky. You don't even know.
Oh, I believe it.
It was an anime archetype, so that means there's a lot of extra cards when we needed things to happen in the TV show. Thanks, writers.
Now that Lord knows, as for me.
Okay, all right. But I'm gonna finish the wrap up. Keep all that stuff in mind. And, as usual, do our usual business. If you be liking this video, be sure to give it a like. If you have any commentos, leave in the comment section down below. You can also hit up our Discord. Link is in the video description and the channel page to join our Discord about stuff. As always, you can also, make sure to subscribe if you're new here. Get good subs. Make sure to ring that bell for notifications. You always know we post a new video, such as if I have to post Let's Talk FGO at a later date because it was a bitch in the export. Also, we did start recording a little bit later because it was, it was Black Friday. There was stuff happening. Mm-hmm. But yeah, bell is good. And I mentioned before some other stuff. Consider joining our channel memberships, for instance. Get access to membership badges and emotes. You can see them on the side of your screen right now and in the channel live replay, the live chat replay. That helps us out. And with Lucky getting his tablet, we might even get some more prettier emotes.
Yeah.
Also, like I said at the start of the show, I mentioned earlier, you can support us on Patreon to get access to episodes early, access to, audio, video, get access to some of those topic polls we're talking about with stuff, and it's just generally a good time. Get access to our patron chat so you can see all the weird posting that happened when we recorded Let's Talk FGO Live, and it also really helps us out and supports us. Though, as usual, I'm a greedy shilly fuck. I want your darn money. Though we are coming up on the end of a month, and the way our Patreon is set up, it does charge you at the start of every month. So if you, pay for the last 4 days of November, you will get charged again in December. So maybe wait like 4 days before signing us up on Patreon. I want to make sure you guys are being responsible with your cash and your gifts and so on. But still, even so, check out our Patreon. We do appreciate it.
I love the fact
but that's everything I got.
They just have things like, check out the yokai. Just cool. And I'm just like, sick, I will. I'm just like...
See, this is another, to change it before we get off, this is another thing that I really wish Elden Ring and other Soulsborne games did. I wish there was an enemy viewer. Yeah, like an in-game codex or bestiary. That would be fucking sick.
Yeah, this is cool. Just a bone whip of like a pelvis, a spine, and a skull. Jesus.
That's some very Doulahan shit.
Oh, there's a person on the... Okay. That's the scary cat is scary.
Scary cat is scary. Well, I think that's where What's Up is ended today.